Support for The Gaming Outsider is brought to you by Manscaped, who is the best in men's below-the-waist grooming champions of the world. Manscaped offers precision-engineered tools for your family jewels. Manscaped just launched their 4th-generation trimmer, the Lawnmower 4.0. You heard that right, the 4.0. Join over 2 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with this exclusive offer for you. 20% off and free worldwide shipping with the code THEGOCAST at manscaped.com. Hey there, Gaming Outsiders. On episode 386, we're answering the difficult question of what 5 video game franchises we would choose if that's all we were ever to play, forever. In news, Nintendo was shutting down servers for the Wii U and 3DS, and new games discussed include Horizon Forbidden West, a pinball roguelike called Zombie Rollerz, a walking sim called 3mm, and Zack can't wait to talk about Voice of Cards, The Forbidden Maiden. We've even got a special treat for you as I interview 2 indie developers. I can't wait for you to hear those conversations. This is The Gaming Outsider. Greetings, programs, and welcome to episode 386 of The Gaming Outsider, a video game podcast with a focus on our incredible community. I'm Scott Clark, your host, and joining me are my friends Zack Parkerson. What's up, man?
Well, how do you do? Welcome to February.
Oh, it's so nuts. It's so nuts. I feel like I'm not going to finish anything, but I'm going to do my best. Also joining us, a guy who definitely will be finishing things because he still has, tons of free time. Mr. Chris Barensmeyer, what's up, man?
Yep, I'm here. I have time. I get it. Ha ha.
I was all excited. I put in a decent chunk of Horizon Forbidden West this weekend, and I'm like, all right, I'm doing really well. Chris gets on here, and before we start recording, says, I'm significantly farther than Scott is. Like, come on, man.
Hey, man. You did good. I'm proud of you.
Oh, boy.
I still think you could post a better Galaga score, though.
Oh, yeah. I went to the arcade with my wife this weekend, and for the first time in my life, I beat her at Galaga, which my wife's pretty good at Galaga. But
Did you get a reward? You know what I'm saying?
No. But CB, she says it doesn't count, and I didn't say this when I posted this on social media. She says it doesn't count because it's one of those machines that set up where you can set it to fast or slow, like right before you pick, you pick it. So when I played, I picked fast, and she assumed that when player two's turn came up, that it would just automatically do fast. So she started like moving her ship to like play the game, like getting ready to go, and she set it to slow. So she was playing on slow, I was playing on fast. And she argues that doesn't count.
Yeah, but
your thoughts?
Okay, my thoughts are fast or slow.
It's the same game.
It's the same game. Your reaction time changes a little bit, but I've played fast and slow, and I can easily triple.
Oh, I'm not. I don't care about this. How high a score you can get, Mr. Competitive. I want to know if my winning counts or not.
I will give it to you because actually I think it's harder to play faster than it is slower with that game.
And that was like the best Galaga game of my life, and I'm not the expert that you are, but I was pretty proud of that score.
It's still a pretty respectable score. I'll give you that.
It was a good time. So she beat me at pinball though, which was embarrassing.
That's a disgrace, sir. You should be embarrassed.
She should be focusing on how great that feels, not how bad it feels to suck at Galaga now.
Right. We played the Mandalorian table, which she's never played before, and she got like 20 million versus my 3. So it was pretty embarrassing, but we had a good time. Anyway, before we get into games we've been catching up on, I got to let everybody know I am so excited. I got to interview not one but 2 different developers, and you're going to get to hear us talk about that. You're going to hear those interviews later on this episode. They are such fun conversations. I highly recommend you check those out. If you're listening to the episode, you don't have a choice, but really looking forward to it. We talked to the developer of Rise of the Third Power, and I also talked to the developer and co-founder of the company behind Rollers of the Realm Reunion, which is a pinball game, but it was a lot of fun talking to him. So stay tuned for that. But I'll be straight with you guys. I have not played anything else but Horizon this week, so I'm gonna save that talk for later. I have not had any time to catch up on anything. CB, what about you?
Still cranking away at Dying Light 2.
Oh yeah?
And loving it.
I have heard that the final act of that game is amazing. I don't know why, I don't know what, but I've heard multiple people say that game really just nails the ending.
I'm hoping to get there I've been spending a lot of time doing side quests and everything. And it's a beefy game, man.
Yeah.
There's a lot to do. I'm actually just loving running around, like exploring the city and just doing little side missions and collecting stuff.
Yeah.
But God, I forgot how much I missed like a parkour zombie game in my life. So yeah, congrats to them for pumping out another great game, but it's going to take me a while.
Yeah. I can imagine. I've heard good things about that game. I wish I had time to play it, but Horizon was my most anticipated game of the year, and I was not going to miss that one. So, Zach, are you in the same boat as me, or did you catch up on anything this week?
No, man. I'm all about voice of cards. I thought about doing the Cyberpunk next gen thing, but I couldn't find a used copy near me, and I refused to buy it new.
That's crazy. You can't find a used copy. Everybody snatched it up as soon as the update happened.
GameStop was right before that patch was announced. GameStop was selling it for $10 on PS4.
Right.
So I'm sure it's the next gen thing. Like, you just go flying off the shelves essentially.
Yeah.
Because now it's already, I think it's up to 15 now already at GameStop.
I assume they could have probably bumped it up to 20 or 25.
I think that's right.
Yeah.
It's just, to me, it's so funny that game is on the rise for price and Guardians of the Galaxy is like on a plummet.
Well, it's not, Cyberpunk's finally done.
Yeah. It's here. It's finally playable according to everybody.
Finally done. Interesting. Yeah, I'm actually would like to get back and try that game because I haven't even got past the title screen. So
your in-game romance can send you nudes. How fun is that?
I saw that. Like they'll text you nudes.
Yeah, you can sex with your girlfriend or boyfriend.
Yeah, it's crazy. And that's one of the new updates, by the way. Like that's right. That wasn't in the original game.
That was a bullet point.
Hey man, I will tell you, after playing through that game, I really do wish there would have been more conversation and other things between Pan Am, the chick that they're talking about.
Well, you should have waited for them to finish the game, CB.
Apparently so, because the conversations they did have was pretty fun, both romantically and non. So,
yeah, I remember almost falling asleep seeing the game get played, and I wonder if it's actually fun when you do play it. But anyway,
CB liked it. Sean liked it.
Yeah,
CB was inclined to like it.
Yeah, at least on Xbox.
Right.
Yeah.
If you played it on PlayStation, you probably wouldn't have liked it, right?
Hey man, I'm playing on my PlayStation this week. Leave me alone,
because it's not on anywhere else.
It'll be on PC at some point in time.
I'm sorry, I'm salty. I need to stay off of Twitter because the fanboyism has started to drive me crazy. I don't know what has changed with Twitter recently, but Twitter just starts putting things on my timeline that have like Xbox in the word, and I didn't ask it to. And you literally cannot find a tweet where someone talks about Xbox or PlayStation without someone just going and saying, well, mine's, the other platform's better.
And what's frustrating about it is so much of it's centered around Horizon and its pricing structure. Mm-hmm. And it's just funny because, like, guys, no, like, we should all be on the same side that what Sony is doing is wrong.
Right.
We used to have these PlayStation fanboys being like, well, it's worth it paying the extra $10 for no reason, by the way. Yeah. And it's all these Xbox people being like, well, wouldn't it be nice if you just click on the game and it just gives you the version you need?
Yeah. Save $10? No, I'm going to pay $10 to the overlords that will never know me more than a number.
I mean, maybe PlayStation's in trouble. Maybe that's what it is, and that's why they have to like lie to their customer base.
I mean, it's on both sides too.
No, it's insane. But I think the Twitter algorithm changed because I see nothing but negative stuff now.
Yeah, me too. Like I don't see anything but negative stuff, and it's driving me crazy. I don't know what it is.
It's starting to get to the point where I might have to at least reduce my time on Twitter because it's not good for me at this point.
Just follow whatever I've got for alerts and not even like scroll through Twitter anymore because I don't know. Right. There's one particular handle that keeps popping up. I don't follow him, and he's such a hardcore Xbox fanboy, and everything Sony does sucks. And then he'll make a post and then follow under it with like a sales pitch of why everyone should follow him and come join his discussions and stuff. Like, there's nothing about what you're saying that I like, and I prefer Xbox. You're just being a douche.
See, I have the flip. I'm a big Xbox guy, but all the tweets that I get notified on are PlayStation.
They want you to engage in all corners of Twitter.
It just drives me crazy how people don't realize how dumb they're being. Like how you're like just worshiping at the feet of either side is just so dumb. We should all be on the same side, like you said.
Right. It is a consumer against the producer.
Yeah.
Anyway,
it's crazy.
Different. This isn't the Twitter cast.
I know. Moving on to more positive things, I am so excited to share with you guys our first interview. I sat down and talked with Evelyn Rose Hall, who is the co-founder of Stegosoft Games, the developer of Rise of the Third Power. I had so much fun with this interview, learned a really lot of interesting information about her and how she got into development and how you'll just have to hear it. I can't wait for you to hear it. Go ahead, and we'll play it for you right now. I'm here with Evelyn Rose Hall, who is the co-founder of Stegosoft Games, which is the creator of Rise of the Third Power. How you doing, Evelyn?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing very well. Thank you so much for stopping to talk to us. I always love to get a chance to talk to developers whenever the opportunity arises. Can you tell everybody, first off, what is your role at Stegosoft Games in terms of Rise of the Third Power?
Yeah, well, thanks for having me. I'm really happy to be here.
Yeah.
So I took care of all the writing, dialogue, story, plot development, stuff like that. I did all the side quests. I did the world design, the dungeons, and then a myriad of other random, making an RPG takes like a million assets and you cobble them all together. So the big thing was the story writing and stuff like that. But then there's like a thousand other little things that I did as well.
I imagine there's just a ton of stuff. I've never developed a game, obviously. I just sit back and enjoy them and talk about them.
Yeah.
So, now you are a two-person team, correct? Is it just
That's
two
right.
of you?
There are two of us own the company together, but we work with a lot of different artists and people that do sound and people that help with the edit and proofread and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. So I've got a very important question for you, and it's one that I ask every first-time guest on the Gaming Outsider.
Let's do it.
And I know I haven't prepped you for this question, but I'm intrigued to hear the answer from a developer.
Okay.
All right, you ready?
I guess.
All right, what are your 3 personal favorite video games of all time?
Okay, well, this is easy.
Okay.
So my very favorite game is Secret of Mana, which is I don't know how well it holds up. But I played that when I was a little kid, like shortly after it came out, and I just absolutely fell in love with it. It was the first game that like did something for me emotionally. I didn't really know games could affect people like that. I mean, as a kid, I didn't think about it that way, but it like, when, I don't want to say any spoilers, but I cried like so many times. Every time there's a sad music with that beautiful, or a sad part of the story with that beautiful sad music, I cried like a baby every single time.
Aw.
I was terrible. So that is my all-time favorite game. No, I don't think anything will ever replace that.
Nice.
Second favorite game is Baldur's Gate 2. And it's probably the most influential game I've played. As far as writing style goes, they spend a lot of time, like all the characters feel alive, and so many of them are witty, and there's like hardly anything just kind of thrown in there. Like everything is thoughtful. Mm-hmm. And my third favorite game would probably, this is tough, probably have to be A Link to the Past.
Hey, you and I will be good friends. That's my
okay,
number
perfect.
one of all time.
All right, I answered the question correctly. Awesome.
I'm surprised. Usually, when I throw that question, it comes off as a curveball to everybody. They have to think, "Wow, that's a really tough question." You were just like
I
right
know
there, ready to go.
exactly what my top 3 are.
That's awesome. Very cool. So it sounds like Super Nintendo was definitely an influential time of your life in terms of consoles.
Yeah, it was. Super Nintendo was the first console I had, and I remember when the first Nintendo came out, I begged my parents to let me get one. Every time I went to a friend's house, they had one. I was just like so enamored with it. Mm-hmm. But we never got one. And then for one Christmas, I got Super Nintendo. And that was easily like all right, I'm a game developer now. Like as soon as I played those early games, I was like, all right, that's it.
Wow, so you got the bug when you were just that young. Like, you're like, I want to make these.
No, I tried. Actually, this is funny. I had all these stuffed animals, and I would build villages for them out of cardboard boxes in this kind of like empty apartment next to ours that the landlord said we could go play in if we wanted to. So I used a room and I built like this village around the whole room, and I would base them on the video games that I was playing. So there's like an Illusion of Gaia one in there, there's a Secret of Mana one in there, there's a Chrono Trigger one in there, and then I would tear it all down and build a new one. And that was like, I kind of pictured it as games when I did that. And that was, I mean, I must have been, goodness, 9, 10 years old when I was doing that. And as soon as I started that was definitely like, all right, there's no turning back now.
That is an amazing story. I seriously love that so much. You had little did you have like little NPC conversations?
I totally did. Yeah. I imagine like the main character, he was Dale from Chip and Dale's Rescue Rangers.
Nice.
He was the protagonist, and he would walk around the town, and he would like pick up a side quest. He would go do it, and like you'd go to the other room in this apartment that we could use, and I like set that one up to be like, I put a blue blanket on the ground, and that was a lake, and then I had like a green like shirt that I put up on top of boxes, like smaller boxes, like it was a tree. I had problems as a child.
That's not problems. That is like so cool. Those are things that I wish I would have thought up. I was the nerd making, Zelda maps and stuff on grid paper and stuff. I didn't come up with anything creative.
If I had the attention span to do that as a child, I totally would have done the grid map thing.
That's so cool. I love that story. That's how you got into game development.
Yeah.
I absolutely love it. So I know you're pretty busy with the recent release of Rise of the Third Power, but have you had any time to enjoy any games on your own? And if so, what have you been playing lately?
I've just been replaying old stuff. Let me look at my Steam. I really like grand strategy games, but there's not a whole lot I want to say about them. I just like them because they're, as an ADHD sufferer, they're very easy to kind of like play a few turns, do something else, play a few more turns, do something else, and you can kind of bounce back and forth really well. I was playing Lost Ark a little bit, and I hate it.
Oh, really?
I hate it. I don't get why anyone likes that game. Like, maybe I just don't get it, but... okay, so no, actually, the one I've been playing the most recently is the original Baldur's Gate. I just started that, actually.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very cool. Awesome to hear. But before we get into the game itself, Rise of the Third Power, can you tell us a little bit about Stegosoft Games? I read that your team started out on a different project before focusing on your first game. Is it called RFL?
Yes, RFL.
And which released in 2015. And I'm curious about your roadmap leading up to the recent release of Rise of the Third Power.
All right, well, get ready for another crazy story then.
All right.
So I started RFL back in... So I got into game development with RPG Maker. And I started RPG Maker 95, and I just played around with each new one that came out. And RPG Maker 2003 is the one that I really fell in love with. So I made RFL as a hobby project, just for fun back then. I think that released probably in 2004, 2005. And it ended up being kind of a minor hit in like the little... That wasn't little. It was a RPG Maker community was pretty big back then. So it was a pretty big hit in that community. And originally it was like a 10-part series. Like it was going to be this 100-hour game. It was way too ambitious for anything I was capable of doing. So when that was clearly, I was in too deep, so I scrapped that game, released what I had, and then I went to Rise of Power a couple years later. Same thing, hobby project. And as I was doing that, oh man, I forgot her name. Amanda Fitch, maybe? She created, have you ever heard of the Avion series? So she made that. She reached out to me and said, hey, RFL is actually really popular on my community, on her forums or something. Have you ever considered stop doing this for free and try to actually make a game that you can sell? And I hadn't. I didn't think that was something that I could do, and she encouraged me to do it, and so I tried. And we started, I started looking for programmers to work with, and that's how I met Frost, Joey. And he and I have been working together in 2009, I want to say. But neither of us had any experience like in commercial type projects.
Sure.
It's amazing how different it is than just something you slap together with RPG Maker. Not to, put that down or anything. It's just very different.
Right.
So we tried to make a game. The project name was called RFL XP because it was going to be on RPG Maker XP. And you can do like more complicated scripting in that game than you could in RPG Maker 2003, and that's what Joey was going to do. And so we tried to put that together, and it was just not coming together very well, and we tried for so long, and we just couldn't get it to work. And then we started working on another game that we were hoping would be kind of a simpler thing that we could kind of hone our skills and then come back to the more complicated game called Operation Prophet. That was like a XCOM / like side-scrolling shoot 'em up. It was weird, but it was a neat concept. I liked that game, but we kind of hated working on it, especially when Arafel is what we really wanted to be making. So This just felt like a diversion. So right around 2015, we were both like ready to throw in the towel. I guess it was more like 2014 when that happened. I don't know. Anyway, so right around that time, RPG Maker 2003 was allowed to be released on Steam, so that we didn't have to be pirated anymore. So you could buy an actual license for it in English. And when I did that, I was like, Arafel, like the old hobby product of mine, is pretty close to being commercially viable. The graphics are almost entirely just things that I have a license for. I can use them. So I decided to finish that up. I released it in 2016 to like pretty modest fanfare. And then I was like, well, I'll try making Rise of Third Power. And then Joey was like, I think that I can rebuild this game without as much work as it would seem in Unity. And then we can expand the features. We can put it on Nintendo Switch. We can do all this kind of stuff. So we decided to do that instead. And then we went and did the same treatment for Rise of Third Power. So that's how we got here.
Very cool. I love hearing stories from developers and how you started. So, and as critics of fans of gaming, we don't often get to see the development side of our favorite hobby. So what's it like taking that huge leap to devoting your career to your art? I mean, is it a big leap of faith?
Oh, it's a big leap of faith. I was waiting tables before that, and I waited tables, and I would come home and spend 30, it was a little more than that, it was like 50 hours a week developing my game. It was a passion project, and I loved doing it, so it's fun plus work, so it wasn't that bad at first. So you get burnt out on that pretty quickly. And then towards the end of the development cycle, I was like, this thing is never going to get done unless I really devote all of myself to this. So I quit my job and did that full-time plus a lot more. But yeah, it was a leap of faith because you have no idea how it's going to do. I mean, Steam, this is back in 2016, and when I decided to do this was 2015. That was before the indie gaming market completely exploded. So I want to say 2016 might have been like the first year that the amount of titles on Steam like doubled that year, and that was like by far that was also the last year that they did Steam Greenlight. So after that, everything just. But even so, it was still like it was hard to imagine my cute little hobby project actually doing anything. But I had to take the risk, and I had some money saved up. So I asked my spouse, and they said, "Make it happen. You've got one chance at this, so make it happen." You've been trying for so long.
That's so cool, and especially when you got the support of your partner. So that's really cool to hear. And I've recently read some books on the story of some game developers, including some indies, and I've always wanted to ask. What's it like being a developer especially with such a small team? Like, what's your day-to-day look like? Is it like an office gig where you just kind of punch yourself in, or what do you do?
Man, that's hard to answer. There's so it wasn't so dissimilar from what I was doing as a hobby. Because the process was largely the same. I would still do the writing the same way. I made the cutscenes the same way. I did all the mapping the same way. But we had to organize our tasks. Joey needed to know what I was doing and when things were getting done, and we needed to plan things out together in a way that I always just kind of threw it together haphazardly before, which incidentally caused a lot of problems when we came back to these old hobby projects, and it was like very clear that I was flying by the seat of my pants and didn't have a plan. Fortunately, Joey is amazing at that kind of thing, and he really made me get my stuff together. But yeah, I would just come in and I would kind of say, all right, what am I working on today? And I worked kind of in a linear fashion. I would kind of made the game in the order the story happened, which is not. I don't know that that's a common way of doing it or not, or but it tends not to be the most successful way of doing it. You really need to like have it planned out beforehand and then kind of strategically pick what you. But I didn't work that way. So I would just be like, all right, so we're at this point in the story. This is the cutscene that needs to get done, and I would kind of do the skeleton of it and play it a few times and be like, does it feel like this actually works, or does it feel like this is like the player's going to get here and it's not going to feel right? And if it felt good, I would flesh it out, and then I would make like the surrounding areas that were important to that. So if it happened in a city, you would do the cutscene first, and then the city surrounding it, and then like the connecting areas, like the rural wilderness and stuff like that.
Sure.
And then there'd be a ton of other random tasks that would need to get done. Joey would need this information from me. I would have this question for him. We need to talk about this feature. This doesn't work, and we need to figure out why or replace it with something. And so every day was a little bit different, but it was a kind of mix of all that stuff.
Gotcha. I'm so used to either just punching in at work, or now that I'm a school teacher, just going and doing my time, and that's
doing
a little bit more.
Doing your time is a great way of describing hanging out with fourth graders, huh?
Yeah. It's an interesting gig, let me tell you. I could tell
little
you.
brats.
Oh,
you said they listen to this? You guys listen to this? I'm calling you out.
Oh man, I will tell you a story when we're done recording about what happened yesterday that you would not believe. But
I can't wait.
Oh, it's hilarious, and nobody probably wants to hear it because it's disgusting. But anyway, I do want to talk about Rise of the Third Power because this game just looks incredible to me, and our listeners probably recognize the name as one of our writers, Rel, recently reviewed it for us on thegamingoutsider.com. And for those just hearing about it for the first time, can you let them know exactly what to expect from this title?
So it is at least compared to Arafel, it's about twice as long as Arafel, so it clocks in around 35 hours if you take your time and do the side quests and don't use story mode to blast through all the battles that I have to fight them. It's I would say it's definitely a more mature story. It's still suitable for kids, but it's not aimed at kids at all, and I think you can tell that when you play it. But it's a Super Nintendo era Japanese style role playing game, very reminiscent of Final Fantasy VI. Real big focus on trying to have tactical combat that feels like you have to think about what you're doing. There isn't even the trash mob packs that are just randomly kind of in your way. You still have to think about which party members do I want to use and what strategies are going to defeat them best. And that's all. I don't know. That's probably half the game is just the tactical combat, and then the rest of it is a huge emphasis on story and character development. The characters specifically are what seem to be getting the most attention. They're all very. There's a lot of rapport between the characters. I don't know if you played Octopath Traveler, but when I really like the game, but one problem I had with it is you had all these characters and they never talk to each other. They don't really have friendships. The relationships don't feel like they matter.
Yep, we had that same conversation on this show.
Oh, yeah. Really a shame. I was really looking forward to that. Incidentally, Baldur's Gate 2, that's one thing they do pretty well in that game is everyone feels like they're actually connected. So I tried to even expand on that. So in Rise of the Third Power, you'll definitely feel like the characters know each other. They have their own things that they care about. They have their things that they hate. They have their conflicts with one another, and they're not well, at least I don't think they're contrived. I tried to keep contrivances in mind when I wrote it. I guess that's my answer for that.
All right. I would say that you mentioned Octopath Traveler, and I'm glad you brought that up because to me, even some of the combat reminds me of the combat from Octopath Traveler. Again, with the characters lining up so you can see who's going to be attacking next and the order and everything like that.
We shamelessly took some inspiration from Octopath Traveler. It's definitely not. I don't think anyone's going to play that and feel like I'm just playing Octopath Traveler. But the inspiration is there, and we're happy to wear that on our sleeve. It's a great game. You
kind of answered my next question already with what you said there. Then
interview.
No, it's awesome. Because it appears that there are inspirations from past games, and you mentioned Final Fantasy VI, you mentioned Octopath Traveler. Are there any other JRPGs in mind that you had in mind when you started designing this game?
No, sort of. So I don't really play JRPGs, which everyone finds crazy. But as an ADHD adult mind, they're just hard for me. I get impatient. The combat is kind of tedious, and my mind wanders during the writing, and I just can't follow it. So they're really fun to make, but I just can't play them as much.
That's so interesting.
Yeah. But the reason I made that is, one, I like to write, and there isn't really another genre that lends itself to writing outside of like adventure games. But then you write puzzles, and I don't do puzzles. And then visual novel, but they need a lot of art. I'm not an artist, so RPG was really the only one that would fit what I wanted to do.
Right.
But yeah. As for inspirations, I mean, Chrono Trigger is the only JRPG that I really love.
Okay.
I don't know if there's a lot of inspiration there or not. There's got to be. I love it so much. There's got to be, but I didn't feel like I was drawing inspiration from it. It was Baldur's Gate 2 is really the one that I felt like I was drawing inspiration from. So this is reductive, but like a JRPG version of Baldur's Gate 2 with less open-ended and more like linear focused story is probably the best way to describe my inspiration for this game.
I think you just sold Kevin from my team on a game with the Baldur's Gate 2
right,
reference.
Kevin. So. I better see a positive review from you, mister.
and full disclosure, I personally have yet to play Rise of the Third Power, as Rel reviewed it for us. I plan on picking up a copy in the next week or so. I really am. I totally want to support you guys. That will be remedied soon, believe me. But with that said, Rel, who unfortunately couldn't be with us today, had some questions for you regarding the game, and I wanted to kind of go over those with you because he obviously experienced it, played the whole thing.
I'm ready. So, let's rock.
His first question was, what drove the decision to do incremental permanent upgrades rather than the traditional route of buying and replacing gear?
So the big thing is JRPG inventory management tends to be kind of annoying. Mm-hmm. You tend to... There are some exceptions, and we plan for those exceptions, but you tend to find your new gear, and you got to go to the store, and you got to sit through the shop menu, and you got to buy all your stuff, and you got to equip all your stuff, and it's just straight upgrades for almost... And I say that, I haven't played a ton of JRPGs, so it's possible that there's like a lot of interesting gear choices in these games that I'm unaware of, but generally it feels like, especially in earlier games, that's what you did. So why bother with all that? So let's make it where you have a lot of permanent upgrades, and that way, the other big thing I wanted to avoid was, this was based, man, what game was I playing when I did this? I don't remember, but there were games where you would buy a cool upgrade and then only to find the exact same thing in a dungeon. It was like, I think I did in Baldur's Gate 2, where I just bought a longsword +1 or something, and then the next dungeon I found was a longsword +1, and I was like, man, I just spent a fortune on that thing.
Right.
So if we have permanent upgrades, that can't happen. And
then if you try to sell it, you're getting like a quarter of what you paid for it.
Yeah. It's I really feel like that is anti-fun. So as much fun it is to find amazing treasure, if you already had to buy it, that creates an incentive to not buy anything as you might find it. So by not having anything that overlaps that way, then you never have to worry about it. So that was the big thing, is inventory management's annoying, and treasure finding, it just feels nicer if that is taken out of the equation.
Very cool. Now, the next question he had has to do with some of the characters specifically. I know you said you took part in, you're the writer, the story writer. Am I pronouncing this name correct? Is it Rashim?
Rashim, yes.
Rashim, okay. So Rel asked, was there a particular vision for Rashim that you then realized maybe in playtesting that everyone just wound up using Rowan, and that's why he became the main character?
No. Oh, that's interesting. I wonder what made him think that. Rowan is always meant to be the protagonist. And Rashim, I don't mean to denigrate his character, but he was probably the most afterthought of a character when I was first coming up with all this.
Interesting.
The original game, he existed because I had... the original game used a lot of ripped graphics from different games, and the portraits I had from, I think it was Super Robot Wars is what I used it from. The ripped graphics that I had this character in it that looks and acts very little like the current person. But I had the portrait, I needed another character, I just kind of put him in there, and he was really a pretty boring character in there. So I had to find a niche for him and find a way to fit him into the story, which I don't usually like doing. Usually you want your characters and everything to kind of spring organically from the needs of the story rather than creating a niche for the character. But I did do that, and I think it worked really well, and apparently better than I thought if he's asking why isn't he the protagonist. But no, he was a hero of the last war, and had a love interest with one of the characters that kind of faded over time, and you kind of bump into him randomly by coincidence. Just, well, not totally. He's involved in the politics, and you get involved in the politics, so it's not a total coincidence if you bump into each other.
Right.
He hears your quest, and he's like, all right, well, you clearly need my help, so let's go. And he's probably the most of the characters in this game are very ethically complicated, let's say.
Okay.
He's probably the least ethically complicated, which is he's a very, like, I don't want to say standard, but like the kind of good guy you might expect, like kind of an aging hero kind of guy that might be a protagonist of the RPGs of yesteryear.
Right.
But that wasn't intentional, or rather, like, envisioning him that way wasn't intentional. But yeah, no, like, when he was 20 years older, he probably would have been the star of the prequel of this game.
Very cool. His next question has to do with the actual boss battles. He says there are boss battles within enemies that can enable their mooks to ignore taunt mechanics. Was this done to encourage players to use the one tank character that doesn't use a traditional taunt?
I wish I had a better answer for this, because the boss design was almost... I did I picked where the bosses were and what did the story call for as far as, like, what they looked like and how they acted, but nothing to do with mechanics. So Joey based all of the boss mechanics based on the story details and based on what they had to look like. So I actually have no idea why that was the case. I know that there is Rashim can't taunt, Rowan can. So Rowan can force enemies to attack him, but Rashim can't. He has a lure mechanic where enemies, every time he stacks this lure, it makes enemies more and more likely to attack him instead of other party members.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe he's able to deal damage back to them when they do that. So you kind of combine those two abilities. And so that sounds like why he would do that. So, like, Rashim is, like, a really good character for that sort of thing. But I'd have to ask Joey. Maybe I'll get back to you on that one.
Yeah, for sure. I know Rel would probably be interested. He was the one that dropped me your email address to get you in contact to do this interview.
Cool.
So he wants to know. He wants to know if there's any plans for a sequel or DLC that continues the story.
DLC, I'm not aware of any plans on. We would need to. If there are plans on that, I haven't been specifically looped in on it. There are plans for a sequel, but it'll be, does the game do well enough to justify that? Can we secure funding? All that kind of stuff. But when you play it and you get to the end of the game, you'll see that it's very clearly, I don't want to say sequel bait because I hate that term and it's not what my intention was, but there's very clearly the story is not over yet. I hope, and most people seem to agree that the game has a very satisfying conclusion for what it is, but it ain't over yet.
Nice. I have to play it now. You pointed your finger at me, so I have no choice. Yeah, there it is. So, anything else in the horizon for Stegosoft games besides a sequel to Rise of the Third Power?
Nothing I can comment on.
I understand completely.
I'll say we have a lot of stuff in the works that I think it's going to be amazing. I think fans will be surprised and excited by some of the directions that we're considering. We'll see where we actually land. But I can't comment on any of it yet.
I understand completely. Where can our listeners follow you and Stegosoft Games to keep up with your work and see what's coming up next?
I am Pixie Freaking Sticks on Twitter, STIX. Stegosoft Games at Stegosoft Games on Twitter, stegosoftgames.com. Our publisher Dangan, that'd be www.danganentertainment.com. They've been awesome to us. They're worth checking out. They've got a ton of great games. Joey has a Twitter that he never uses, so I don't know what it is. I'm not going to bother. But I think that's about it.
Sounds good. Well, Evelyn, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me today. It's an honor to get a chance to talk with you, and it was a pleasure.
You're going to make me blush.
Aw. It was so much fun. I love getting a chance to talk, and
totally.
Hope that I wish you all the best with Rise of the Third Power, as well as anything you've got in the future, and can't wait to play it. Rel loved it. He called it one of his what was the word he used? Like one of the gems of the year. He played a game last year called Smelter that we felt like came under our radar, much like Rise of the Third Power. Came under our radar until I got an email press release about it, and I love it. Discovering games like this that I've never heard of or never.
Oh yeah, totally.
And I apologize, I hadn't heard of Stegosoft Games before Rise of the Third Power, and it just seems like one of those darlings that it's going to be great. So I cannot wait to play it. So
awesome. Well, when you do, let me know what you think.
Will do, definitely. I'll shoot you an email and let you know. But thanks so much, and we'll check. I guess we'll talk to you next time. All right?
Yeah, sounds good. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Bye.
And with that, we'll go ahead and jump now into our weekly news topic. Couple new trailers to talk about. First off, a game called Mad Experiments 2 Escape Room. That's coming to PC and early access in March. Also, we got a trailer or a teaser trailer for Street Fighter 6, which has officially been announced, and there's more news on that coming this summer. Also, it was announced this past week that Nintendo will be shutting down Wii U and 3DS servers in March of 2023. A lead for Amazon's Fallout series has been cast. HBO's The Last of Us series won't be premiering in 2022. And also, in interesting news that just dropped about an hour ago, Call of Duty will be skipping a year, guys. Lots of interesting things to talk about this week. CB, you've been gone the longest. What would you like to start with?
My boy, Walter.
All right. Walton.
He's your boy, but don't even know his name.
Walter. Walter Goggins.
Walton Goggins.
Dad, sorry. I see. So the problem is every time I see Walt, I think Walter because I have an uncle named Walter.
Mm-hmm.
So Walton Goggins.
Tell us again how you're good buddies with him.
No, my good boy. I'm sorry, man. I love Justified, so leave me alone.
You guys stay cold together?
Yeah, all the time. So Walton Goggins of Justified fame has signed on. Apparently nobody knows what he's going to be, but the rumors suggest that he's supposed to be a ghoul.
Yeah,
which gets me. He has kind of that look that he could fill.
I'm sure he'd love to hear that.
I was going to say I was close to making the comment like, well, you don't need as much makeup or whatever, but I was like, I'm not going to be that mean. And now you're like, he's got the look of a ghoul.
Well, I mean, I love him as a bad guy, but I don't think he'll be. I'm hoping he won't be a bad guy.
I'm getting a little tired of Walton Goggins as a bad guy.
Yeah, but
same thing with John
have either one of you watched? Have either one of you watched Justified?
I watched the first season.
Oh, you are doing yourself a disservice.
I've heard. I will put it on the list of shows that I have to watch.
That show is phenomenal, and I love Timothy Olyphant.
Maybe after Peacemaker.
Well, yeah. But yeah, I'm really excited for this because it's more stuff in the Fallout universe. So, it's being produced by Jonathan Nolan and Lisa Joy, who are known for Westworld.
Yep.
And our Lord and Savior Todd Howard is an executive producer.
Mm-hmm.
So I always get nervous whenever I see any type of video game, TV show, or movie. But with a property like Fallout, I don't think that it's going to be that hard to mess it up.
I hope not. But
so
I didn't think you could mess up Assassin's Creed either.
That was doomed from the start.
I want to go back to what you're talking about with Walton Goggins, and you're tired of him being a villain. Just because he's a ghoul doesn't mean he's a villain.
I'm just saying I'm hoping he's not.
Yeah, I hope he's a good guy.
So, but there's a lot of bad ghouls in the Fallout world.
There's some good ones, though.
Yeah.
Right? Fallout 3 especially.
2 or 3.
Hey, smooth skin.
Yeah, smooth skin.
Man, I miss Fallout. When's Fallout 5 coming?
I think I'd rather just play Fallout 3 again.
I have been playing Fallout 3 again.
It's very good.
It's just one of those that if you get away from it for more than a month, you forget your inventory and what weapons you have, and it's not as easy to get back into. It's a very dense RPG, so...
It is, but it's still really good.
Yeah.
So, Amazon, please don't screw this up.
I think I read today that they're also getting shows. I think Thomas sent me a link, and I forgot to put it in the notes, that we're getting shows on... oh my goodness, what is that point-and-click adventure you played on PlayStation? Disco Elysium? I think is going to be... They're making a show on that, which I don't know, Zach, will that make a good show? I don't really know anything about it.
I don't know. I mean, not really.
No? Okay.
I mean, like I don't know. I feel like its story is told in such a video game format. I don't know. It's hard to imagine it as a show.
I don't know anything about it. I know it's something detective related or something like that. So,
but he's also got like 20 voices inside of his head.
Oh,
which would be hard to demonstrate in a TV show.
That would be hard to do in a TV show. I'm not sure how that would work. There was another one that also was announced as well. Let's see.
I mean, it's the next mine to go for, right?
Oh, Life is Strange.
That's a really
that could work.
One.
It could work.
No, it's just such a you don't need the IP. It's not like it's just not a property. Like it's just a story about a high school girl.
Right.
They just want the title.
Yeah.
No, I will say though, I want the Amazon series, just each episode be a quest. Like, doesn't have to be the main quest, just side quests. That's all I want.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that would be the best way to do it, but I just can't imagine them doing that.
It would take a lot of cojones for them to do that, but that's what we all want.
Those first few seasons of Supernatural, that's what they did. Just
or even,
every episode was one thing.
I also thought The Mandalorian was going to be a show with a different weekly bounty, and they didn't have the cojones to do that.
Yeah. Anyway,
because yes, just the side quest format just makes so much sense because you get an hour-long movie every week, basically like Black Mirror, where it's just this little like moral parable, just like the side quests in the game. Right. And it works so well in Fallout 3, especially because they only had like 20 major side quests or whatever, so they all felt immaculate.
Right.
So that would be the wise way to go, but they won't.
Oh, also it just hit me. Side note for them, for the love of God, the narrator better be Ron Perlman.
I think it's a no-brainer. I want an entire episode about the Republic of Dave.
That's the thing is you could title the episodes the name of the quest from the game.
Right.
Like how perfect would that be?
Wouldn't be hard.
What is the charge?
So many good side stories in that game. Some weird ones too, and if that game doesn't end with a giant robot throwing nukes like hand grenades, then they have failed us as a society.
Oh, see, there better be a Liberty Prime moment.
Oh my goodness!
I hope it ends with the main character sacrificing themselves in a radioactively toxic chamber, even though they're accompanied by a super mutant who could easily survive inside of that. But when you ask him, "Hey man, can you do that for me?" He just looks at you and goes, "No, like this is your destiny." And you go, "This is really stupid and it makes no logical sense at all." But then they roll credits anyway.
This makes no logical sense. Roll credits.
And then 10 months later, they put out another season and they call it an expansion pack. And then all of a sudden they just write over that ending because it never made any sense. That would be smart.
It would be smart.
Can you just imagine like the VAT system though in a TV format, just blowing somebody's limb off?
I think I'm gonna Fallout 3 soon. Yeah, that's was cool.
It really was. I can hear that noise when you turn on VATS, that or whatever.
Mysterious stranger suddenly shows up.
That was the greatest perk.
Now they definitely won't have the cojones to do that.
No. But it would be awesome.
Just in the middle of the scene, just without even any explanation, just a mysterious stranger shows up, shoots somebody that he's fighting, and then just disappears.
It just happens like every 3 or 4 episodes.
That would be so fantastic.
And they refuse to talk about it in interviews. That would be amazing.
Yeah, what are you talking about?
Who's that? The guy in the trench coat? Like, I don't know. What are you talking about? Yeah.
Not a clue.
And it's just it's like Matthew McConaughey or something too, some high profile actor.
Oh no, like Tom Cruise or something ridiculous.
I don't think he'd look good in a trench coat.
I don't.
just the hat coats down though.
Do they make trench coats long enough?
Hey, bullying's okay.
All right, Zach, moving on.
Zach, which story do you want to talk about?
Oh boy. I guess the Call of Duty thing, that's pretty significant. Call of Duty's finally skipping a year, which is the first time, I think, since in between 3 and 4.
It's like PS2 days.
Yeah, it's definitely been a long time. But it was supposed to be Treyarch this year, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And they're delaying it from 2023 to 2024. It's coming out of Bloomberg, of course, or Jason Schreier, the man not afraid to scoop reporting.
Mm-hmm.
Seems legit, man. I don't know. But it's probably good for them.
It probably is too. I know that's probably why Jason Schreier likes it so much, is it will alleviate crunch, because that's that's a big issue in the video games industry. Do we need a Call of Duty every year? And I fully understand that I'm not a multiplayer guy, but do we need a new Call of Duty every year?
Well, based on the MPD charts, yes.
Yeah, I guess. It's just easy income for them. I'm not easy, because I'm not saying it's easy to develop those games.
When people buy them, and it's not like the developers only have a year to make it, right? They have like 3 years and they're on a rotation schedule.
Right.
And people eat them up. Yeah, Vanguard sold a little worse than normal, but they also went, I think you went to World War II too quickly again.
I agree. And
it's just no, but yeah, I have to wonder, of course, which I'm sure everyone is the delay happening because of the Microsoft buyout?
Oh, I guarantee it is.
See, here's the thing. Like, I assumed then the game must have been in rough shape no matter what. But the difference is they can afford to take the stock hit now, because no matter what, Microsoft's already locked into a agreement of the buy price. So it doesn't matter how bad they do in the stock market right now, because either way, y'all getting rich soon.
Right.
Yeah.
But I think without it, you're right. Without the parachute of Microsoft, they would have definitely just shoved this out the door and not care, which, that's what major publishers do. Mm-hmm. EA, Battlefield.
I wonder how, did that have to get run by Microsoft? Because the purchase isn't official yet. It hasn't happened yet, right?
No, so it would have to be a Kotick decision, right? But he's not going to care right now, because what does it matter if he gets his quarterly bonus this year when he's about to get $600 million next year?
Right. It shouldn't matter, but I'll bet you it does.
Well, and I agree with the going back to World War II. That's the problem with these games. They keep using the same 4 story beats over and over and over.
And this is next year's, right? Not this year's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's just I don't know, the problem is every time they stray away from one of the major world conflicts, it does terrible.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's back to the same well to dig another hole.
I don't know, man. I really like the Modern Warfare one, the last one.
Yeah, that last one was good.
It was good. Yeah, I'm not disagreeing with that.
And that wasn't around any specific war.
No, but that was also interesting because it was intentionally trying to be controversial. That was fun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, Modern Warfare 1 and 2, the original ones, they were great. 3 was a little lackluster, but
3 was awful.
I don't even remember it, to be honest.
Yeah. But what I'm saying is we have so many games out there. It's World War I, World War II, Vietnam, back to World War I, World War II, Vietnam.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same cycled thing over and over and over.
Well, yeah, but whenever they try something new, we all complain about it. Remember Modern Warfare? Or not Modern Warfare, Advanced Warfare?
Infinite Warfare.
Infinite Warfare is when they went to space.
Yep. Well, there was Ghosts, Advanced Warfare, Infinite Warfare.
Yeah, and nobody liked
Battlefield 2042.
So it's hard to be mad at them for going back to the well where they know they'll get the success when everyone complains about all the offshoot ones.
Well, craft a good storyline. Take more than a year to do it.
Right.
I was hoping that it's major news if it actually does get pushed, because it changes the entire fourth quarter landscape.
Mm-hmm.
It does.
I agree.
Won't have to worry about buying it for a year.
Yeah, because you're always snagging them up right away.
I do want to talk about this Nintendo story though too before we move on, because I'm not sure how I feel about this. Nintendo shutting down the Wii U and 3DS servers, in a year. Basically, you won't be able to purchase a Wii U game or a 3DS game, but more importantly, if you've purchased games in the past and something happens to your hardware, you won't be able to ever re-download them again. So all those purchases that you made on those two consoles are no good anymore, which is definitely an argument for the physical only market, as we've gone back and forth about in the past. But it also brings up a question of game preservation. Nintendo doesn't really seem interested in preserving the library of games on either of these consoles because their answer has been, we're moving forward with the Switch and we're going to do things on, Nintendo Switch Online, but all those games that everybody paid for on those services you're not going to ever be able to play them again.
Just keep porting.
Right. Well, so about 1,000 digital-only eShop games are going to go away with this.
Mm-hmm.
That's crap.
It's a lot of games.
Now, Not only would I wouldn't say that Nintendo doesn't care about game preservation. I would say that they're openly antagonistic against it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is almost a bitter move, almost.
And why? Like,
yeah, why?
What's the reason for being against it?
Well, with the Wii U, I can understand because how many people do you know that own a Wii U and are actively buying games on their Wii U?
How much does it cost to keep one server open?
That's a good question.
But it's Nintendo. Always forward.
Right. So when the Sony thing was happening, and I cannot remember where I listened to this now, so I apologize if I'm just talking out of my rear, but I remember hearing an interview, I think from indie developers or something, and they were talking about the Vita and PS3 when they were going to get shut down all of a sudden, and the primary reason was that it's one less thing you're writing checks out of as a company for taxes, basically. So it just
it's a tax decision.
So it just streamlines your books at the end of the year, basically. You're getting rid of line items.
Okay. I mean, I always argue that at the end of the day, these companies are a business and they make business decisions, but I have a hard time believing that there is not a large group of people at Nintendo that are like, we should save some of these games.
And the frustration is, you don't have to keep open this wide storefront. Just make it one server. Make the download speeds suck. Make them take forever.
Yeah.
No one would care. The only thing you care about as Nintendo is you're like, well, somebody buys that 3DS indie game. Now we got to cut them a check for 35 cents.
Right.
What a pain that is. It's the only thing I can think of.
You sit here and say that, but do you really think Nintendo still cuts a check?
No. But that's what I'm saying. Like, it is just this one, now we have an outstanding payment to this one company for 35 cents. Ugh. It's the only thing that's the only reason not to keep it open.
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, like when I first heard about this, I was like, wow, they're still open? I didn't even know.
Yeah. I mean, that's why I was torn because I haven't played a game on Wii U or 3DS in years, literally years. And I don't see myself ever going back to the well. And I wonder how many people are.
Well, that's true.
So we'd be basically asking Nintendo to front the cost of server and cost of staff to manage this accounting stuff that you're talking about, Zach, just, out of goodwill.
Yes, out of preserving the artistic medium that has made you wealthy.
No, I know.
And also this is coming from a company that has like openly bragged about a sizable billions of dollars war chest of money that they just keep because they have it.
Right.
So it's kind of hard to sweat for Nintendo.
Well, but this is also the company that 2 years ago put out a collection of Mario games that I cannot download again.
Yeah, that's true.
Which does not, I still to this day, and I was reminded of that because remember, I think I talked about it when I got the OLED. And I'm like, I want to put some games on here as well, and I use it at school, so I'll put Mario on there because kids love Mario, and it's not in the shop. So I don't even know can I copy it and put it on an SD card?
Are you talking the 3D All-Stars one?
Yeah.
Man, should have bought a physical version.
I do have a physical version.
That's not really the
maybe
point,
you should open it.
No.
I would say that is not the argument, though.
Yeah.
But you can't sit here and say that they're not caring about game preservations. They put out a physical one.
But they did not put out a physical version of Rick's Rollicking Western.
That's true.
Is that a real game?
Yeah, he plays a little armadillo in the Wild West.
I'm surprised that the Wii U store is still open. But with as recent as the 3DS was still having games for it being made, that one surprises me.
Yeah.
The fact that they're willing to abandon the 3DS that fast. is it frustrating? Yes, but knowing Nintendo, this is also just a big drum up to make a lot of sales in a short amount of time. Because they're like, we're closing it down. Buy your stuff now.
Well, it is nice that they gave a year warning, and it wasn't like PlayStation where they were like,
tomorrow.
Yeah, you got a day, homie.
Yeah, but is this a thing where people are going to be like, I can't wait to go buy these games so I can never have them again in a year? I mean...
Well, that's the frustrating part, right? Because you won't be able to re-download them.
So, like, if you make a purchase now...
Insane. In 2022, you have to worry about the inability to re-download your purchase.
Well, and that's also one of the reasons why companies like Limited Run and Super Rare Games exist now.
Right, or the Video Game Preservation Society, which just straight up dragged Nintendo online, which was great.
Plus, I mean, doesn't this embolden pirators?
Yes, Nintendo just told you to pirate their games. That's what they did.
Well, they did, so then they can sue you later on and make more money.
Right, go to prison like that guy.
The guy named Bowser.
The coincidence of Gary Bowser going to prison for 3 years for selling hacked consoles and them daring you to pirate the games they're about to take away from you does not go unnoticed.
Yeah, the timing of that seems very warning. Yeah. It's very nuts to me.
It's a crappy decision top to bottom. There's no good angle. Although I'm sure there are Nintendo fans on Twitter
defending this,
backing, who are like, "This is a great choice. Can't wait."
How can you defend? Like, how is that a good thing for anybody?
It's the whole idea. Moving forward.
And I get that because I'm probably never going to play a Wii U or 3DS game ever again. I might go back to Link Between Worlds, but like, I have a physical copy of that.
Here's the thing that really sucks though, with them shutting these servers down.
Mm-hmm.
There are certain games, both on the Wii U and 3DS, that were shipped with defective discs that required a patch.
Oh.
That's
so you will
the part
not be able
that
to play
really
that.
hurts. Yeah. Because it means those are just dead.
Imagine being stranded with the launch version of FF15.
Yeah.
There would be chapters of the story missing.
Mm-hmm. So, like, to me, that's the one that's the bigger kick in the teeth.
It's the fact that world we live in.
Yeah.
To your guys' argument,
what sucks for me is
argument earlier, if they had finished the game to begin with, it wouldn't have been an issue.
You guys finally had me, like, just months ago, be like, I need to get a 3DS. Like, finally, I want to get one for all the games I missed. And honestly, the rolling Western game is one I wanted to play. So now I have this, like, the death scythe over me. I gotta download it in time.
You gotta download it in time, and you gotta finish it before your 3DS dies.
Right. So now I gotta buy a 3DS, which is only gonna go up in price, and I gotta get it downloaded all before March 2023, and I gotta make sure it stays on my console forever, or else I won't have it again. That sucks.
Yeah, especially with some of those where it's like, oh, the battery died on this console. Right. I have to replace the battery. It completely wipes my system.
Yep. What's that going to do to the collector's market, CB, do you think, for games like that where, if you look at classic games now, they just play. You know what I mean? There was no internet. You know what I mean? So there was no patch or anything like that. What does that do to the value of a game that, is basically unplayable because you can't download the patches or updates or extra levels and stuff like that? Is that game going to be valuable?
No, they become worthless. The bigger thing is, for those of you who collect games out there, start picking up Wii U and 3DS games now, because in about 8 years, the price is going to go sky high.
Right. But I mean, there's so many games out there that are basically unplayable now that you've got that are worth a crap ton of money. We were talking about that PC game based on Chex. What was it? Chex
Quest.
Which nobody has a computer that can play that now, right? Like with the physical copy.
Didn't
Limited Run Games did a copy of it.
Yeah, Limited Run.
Right, but I'm talking about the original, the original disc.
Well, thank God we have Limited Run.
There are ways to do it. I mean, there are ways to emulate having Windows 95 on a PC so you can play these games.
Yeah, but I don't even have my laptop doesn't even have a disk drive on it. I can't put an
CD. External disk drive.
I know, but I'm curious how that, is that a valuable game? Like if you have a copy of the original Chex Quest, yeah,
it's a pricey game,
and to actually play that game, you have to jump through so many hoops.
Yeah,
right. You can't just drop it in your computer and play it. As where like if you had a Nintendo game, you just drop it into your NES and you can play it. Now I understand that collectors don't really collect with the intent of actually playing them all the time. It's just to complete a collection or to flip it or whatever. But I don't know. It's just such a weird market. I never thought that video games would be in the market that we're in right now. It's nuts.
It's just getting more and more insane. And I laugh every day as I'm like, why did I ever get into collecting video games?
Yeah, part of me. I haven't picked up anything new for my collection in months. Just because it almost feels like it would be stupid too. Like I feel like it would be kind of an idiot too. I just wait for the market to drop. But I don't know if it will. Yeah,
it's not going to go down. You just got to be more careful with your purchases now.
Either that or just give up. I'm so close, man. I'm so close.
Close, but so far.
That's true. Well, it's time to move on. I want to remind everybody once again that we are an independently funded podcast, which means that we do pay for our podcast hosting services, website, all that on our own. And we do that with the help of patrons at our Patreon page, where fans do contribute monthly to help offset the cost of production, as well as allow us to give back to the community with games that we purchase to review and then turn around and give away to you guys. If you'd like to help out, you can do so at patreon.com/thegocast. And at the $3 a month level, you will get an additional 2 bonus episodes each month. And at the $5 a month level, I'm sorry, I said that wrong. If you're at the $3 a month level, you will get 1 bonus episode. If you were at the $5 tier, you will get 2 bonus episodes. And we've got quite a few episodes that are almost here. We've got them recorded, and they will be posted very shortly. CB, what can everybody expect to hear in the coming month?
Well, in upcoming stuff, we have Desert Island Games with Stoy from the EXP cast, so I'm kind of curious to see on that one. We have our episode of Star Fox Adventures from the GameCube, because Dinosaur Planet is a thing. Zack, and you are doing one on the Uncharted movie.
Yep, full-on spoiler cast, and we talked a lot more about that than I thought we would.
Yeah, I need to get around to seeing it at some point in time. And I promise it's coming soon, but our Break the Seal on Halo with Zack, myself, and Christina.
Very cool. If those episodes sound interesting to you and you'd like to hear our voices a little bit more often and also help out the show, do us a favor, head over to patreon.com/thegocast and sign up today. We really do appreciate it. With that, let's go ahead and jump into the newer games that we've actually been playing. Okay, Zack, anything new in the horizon that I should be picking up, or just keep playing Horizon?
Okay. I like how you say anything, as though there aren't 14,000 things. Right at the top, I don't think anybody here cares, but it's a huge deal. Destiny 2, The Witch Queen. Major expansion goes to PS5, PS4, Xbox Series consoles, Xbox One, PC, and Stadia, February 22nd. Side note, with this expansion, it will remove the initial Destiny 2 campaign. So if you ever wanted to play the beginning of the storyline, you can't anymore. That's a real thing that's happening.
I don't even understand. Why would you?
Because they want to streamline new players into the new content faster. It makes no sense to me. And if I ever had thought about playing Destiny 2, I now never will. It makes no sense. It boggles the mind.
World of Warcraft did the same thing a few years ago with Cataclysm.
But couldn't you still play the original content to get to Cataclysm?
I remember at one point in time they were saying that you couldn't.
I'm pretty sure
it was just new starting zones and everything.
What? Anyway, that's nonsense. Utter nonsense. I don't understand why, if you were a new player, you would ever say, "Oh, well, now that you've removed 10 hours of content, I will."
Apparently, this episode is just all about how crappy we think some of these companies are.
Anyway, well, beyond that. New JRPG Monarch, which I think looks absolutely sweet. Should have picked a better release date. Coming to PS5, PS4, Nintendo Switch, and PC, February 22nd. New Platinum Games shoot 'em up, Soul Cresta. This is actually directed by Hideki Kamiya. That's coming to PS4, Switch, and PC February 22nd. Monster Crown coming to Xbox One February 22nd. That is a Pokemon-style collecting RPG. Edge of Eternity, which is a French-based Japanese role-playing game, which is a funny thing to say. Came to other consoles last week, but this week comes to the Nintendo Switch February 23rd. Horror game, which you should absolutely, under no circumstance, purchase on PlayStation if you have other options. Martha is Dead, coming to PS5, PS4, Xbox Series consoles, Xbox One, and PC February 24th. That game is censored and not the way the developers intended on PlayStation, so if you can play it elsewhere, do so. Never Alone, the Arctic Collection, bundles Never Alone, and its content, coming to Nintendo Switch February 24th. Atelier Sophie 2, The Alchemist of the Mysterious Dream, is quite a title. There's another turn-based Japanese role-playing game to be PS4, Switch, and PC February 25th. The only game that matters on this list, Elden Ring, coming to PS5, PS4, Xbox Series consoles, Xbox One, and PC February 25th. That's a new game from Software, of course. Grid Legends, coming to PS5, PS4, Xbox Series consoles, Xbox One, and PC February 25th. And then finally, in a very rare move, survival horror game Tormented Souls is getting ported to the older consoles. It is already out on current gen, but it's getting ported to PS4 and Xbox One February 25th. Whew. What are you guys playing? I assume the two of you will just keep playing Horizon, I imagine.
Yeah, for sure. But if I had to pick one, Martha is Dead, just out of morbid curiosity than anything else. We did talk to Alyssa a little bit, and she'll talk about the game next week. I guess I can't talk about it, can we?
Well, you didn't play it. I don't know.
No.
But anyway.
I can't share her thoughts, is what I'm saying.
Correct.
I will let her talk about it when she's on the show, then I apologize. But yeah, like I just want to see what all the controversy is about, and it sounds kind of cool anyway. But yeah, I'm in way deep into Horizon, so.
Martha's Dead, but at some point in time, I will get around to Elden Ring.
That makes me happy because then maybe I can try it because I don't want to buy it to just hate it. So
I'm going to buy it physical just to piss you off.
I can still borrow it.
Well, it's supposed to be far and away the most accessible Souls game.
Everybody keeps telling me that. Brian Regal today was like,
that's what that is the marketing speak. That is what Miyazaki has kept saying.
I hear that, and what goes into one ear, but what actually hits my brain is if you suck at this game, you really suck at games. That's all I hear.
Oh man. Well, I would say that if you suck at Dark Souls, you suck at games anyway. I'm just kidding.
I've never tried it, so
it's not. That's a franchise that upsets me because it is not as hard as people make it out to be. You just have to have patience.
Yeah.
More than anything.
Which I have less and less of as I get older because
fair enough.
I need to get through some games, man.
But a funny thing happens when you get good at one of them, then they all get good. Like Demon's Souls was almost easy replaying it.
Well, you played it before.
That's what I'm saying. Like you're just so familiar with it. Anyway, yeah, for me, I would love to play Monarch. I think Soul Crest looks cool. I think Martha's Dead looks cool, but the only thing that's gonna matter is Elden Ring.
Yeah, that's all everybody is talking about on our Discord server is this game coming out, and
yeah, it's almost a bit much. But part of it is like Hideteki Miyazaki he said that like this is the culmination of the game he wished he could have made the first time.
Okay,
and if that's true, then I'm all in. The only the weirdest part is just like it has a map.
Oh, that's the other games don't have a map?
No, it has like a map with icons and stuff. It's very strange. Looks like an actual open world game.
I'm a little bit more intrigued then.
That's how it's the most accessible.
Yeah, that's the only, that's the only way it's more accessible.
Well, none of the other games have a map, so I guess that's true by default. But speaking of a game with maps and tons of icons, you guys are playing Horizon Forbidden West. I assume you're both playing it on PS5.
Yep. Well, I am.
Yes, I'm playing it on PS5. I don't have a PS4, so
yeah, that's what you're playing. Break them.
Yeah. It is all too possible on PlayStation's architecture to be playing the PS4 version on PS5 and not know.
Yeah,
that is true.
It's not smartly delivered.
That's a good name for it.
Man, someone should crank that out. Anyway, guys, so you've been playing. You guys are Scott. You were a fan of the first game quite a bit.
Love the first game.
Oh, I loved it too.
Okay. I thought it was mid.
I love this one even more.
Well, I'm not surprised to hear that.
Well, I'm not as far as CB, but it's getting better. I will say the beginning, which you may appreciate more than I did, Zach, it takes a while to get going. The game is straight up linear for 2 hours. Would you say, CB?
Oh, easily. Yeah, it's really linear beginning.
Yeah, you don't hit any open world.
So was the first game, though, with the proving and everything, or where you play through the Hunger Games?
You're right, and I was thinking about that, but I was so invested in Aloy as a character at that point. And this time around, there's no intrigue and mystery at the beginning of the game, because you as the player actually know more information than Aloy does, which is frustrating. Because that was the appeal of the original Horizon, was I'm discovering this with Aloy, and I don't know anything about this world and what's outside of this, just like Aloy doesn't. And now I'm privy to information, so when she discovers this information that I already know. It's not a surprise.
That's weird. Like, so it shows you off screen at the beginning of the game or something?
No, I'm talking about stuff that happened at the end of the original Horizon.
The stinger at the end of Horizon Zero Dawn.
Oh, wait, this picks up like minutes after the first game?
No, like 2 hours after. Like 2 hours. Okay. No, this is it's not long after that.
It's more than a month.
It's like a month or something like that. Yeah, but I'm not saying it's not like years or anything like that.
Huh. Okay.
But what happens at the end of the original game, Aloy doesn't become privy to until almost 2 hours into the game.
Do they refresh you, or do they expect you to remember what happened 5 years ago?
They drop you like nuggets.
Yeah, like Silence does the monologue at the beginning of the game.
The only memorable character.
Which it's funny you say that, and CB, I want to see if you agree with me on this, because to me, every side character in this game is interesting, except for Aloy. Aloy's not interesting anymore to me.
She does feel like the medium that everyone else's story is being told through.
But she also feels like she's almost cocky. Like she's almost like condescending to people, like not in a like I'm the savior kind of way, but in like she just talks down to everybody. Whereas before she was this humble, coming from low beginnings thing, and now she's.
There's a reason for that.
Okay, all right.
You haven't got there.
Okay, all right. That's fair enough, because I just hit the Forbidden West. I was 10 hours in this little section before.
So I know.
Whoa, it takes you 10 hours to get to the Forbidden West?
But if you do a lot of the side quests, you can streamline it in like under 4.
Oh, yeah.
That's nuts, but all right.
But yeah, granted, this game can be completed in like 20 hours.
Right.
But you spend so much time doing other things that you kind of get sidetracked and lost. But
never in an overwhelming way. Not like in an Assassin's Creed Unity kind of way. It's manageable to clean up each section, or at least the first section.
Oh yeah, I'm in. It's fairly manageable all the way through. It's just there's a lot of running from A to B.
Well, there is fast travel, and that is one thing that I like that they changed from the original Horizon. I don't know if you remember, but you actually had to use fast travel packs in order to travel from one place to the other. So you had to like purchase these packs in order to be able to fast travel, which makes zero sense from a world standpoint, but also from a why would you do that in a game? Like, why punish somebody for fast traveling when your game is massive? So there are still fast travel packs. But you only need to spend those when
if you're not enough campfire.
Right. If you're just like anywhere in the world and you want to fast travel, you have to do it. But you can travel, if you're at a campfire, you can travel from campfire to campfire for free. So I like that a little bit.
And once I will tell you, once the world opens up, you're like never more than 500 yards away from a campfire.
There you go. So that's good.
So the fast travel packs almost seem like I'm totally screwed in this fight. I need to get out of here now.
Right. Except you can't. Can you use a fast travel pack in the middle of a fight?
Smoke bomb, run.
Okay. Gotcha.
Like there's ways to abuse it.
So it sounds like I'm being negative about this game. I'm not, because it's just it's a much slower burn than I was expecting. Because the first game introed so well. Like, just growing up with Aloy and watching her go through the trials and you know, the heartbreak of Rost and all that kind of stuff was just great. So,
yeah.
It's sorry, speaking of connecting to the characters, is the storytelling better, or do they still? So the first game, I really had trouble caring about anybody because they all just walked around like marionettes, as though they were being puppeteered by some outside force, and they didn't emote on their face at all, which was weird because it kept cutting in close to their face, and nobody like moved when they talked. It was really uncanny.
That is vastly improved.
Yes.
I mean, not only like does the camera move on occasion, but they have hand gestures and they actually have real expressions in their face. There's one character that I just met, and I won't spoil it, but CB, you know what I'm talking about. Like right when you get into the Forbidden West, or when you come to the Forbidden West, there's a character that tells you a story there, and I listened to his entire story, and it was good.
That's
my biggest problem is there's too many side characters.
Mm-hmm.
Like, once you get further into the Forbidden West, it gets to the point that there's so many side stories that you're juggling.
Okay.
It does get a bit overwhelming.
Well, and even some of the characters that I assume are reintroducing you to, like when you get to Chainscrape, and she talks to these characters like they've been long lost buddies, and I don't remember them. I remember Aaron, but I don't remember
Petra.
The woman. Yeah, I don't remember Petra.
Oh, I remember the name.
See, that's the problem. So many of these characters, I remember them because they were just like little snippets from the other game.
Mm-hmm.
And like now I'm like, oh, look, I'm being reintroduced to this character. And every time you meet one of these characters, like they have a little dialogue that like, hey, remember when we did this in the last game, basically?
Yeah, it's a little surprising to me that they would make a sequel like that dependent on the original 5 years later.
Well, especially for a person like me that played it in like a week when it released. You know what I mean? I'm not going to...
That's why. Like, it's just... You've had to... probably have played hundreds of games.
Literally.
Yeah, I mean, they do a good job of backtracking the story. To me, though, it's the rest of the game, though, that really makes this.
Okay.
Like,
and you're further than I am, so I don't know what that means yet.
It's visually stunning. Like,
it does
look
gorgeous.
Incredible. Granted, I know you've had a couple issues. I've recently had a couple issues.
Okay.
But my issues are bizarre.
Like,
right, like Scott keeps getting frame rate issues, right?
At one point I had frame rate issues, and I think it was just I rebooted the game and it was fine, but it was frustratingly dropping in frame rates. And you know, you've heard me say on here all the time that I can't see frame rates 60. I can't tell the difference between 60 and 30 and all that kind of stuff. This felt like sub
10,
15. Yeah. It was, and I don't know how to tell that number. I'm just saying it just felt, it was so choppy. You saw the video I sent you guys, right? Like, that was just straight up movement.
Right. It looked like the behind closed doors Arkham Knight demo that leaked.
Zach, you won't believe it. There is pop-in textures in like the opening cutscenes. Like, Aloy like slowly walks up to the mountain to overlook the vista or whatever, and textures just pop in like that. Like, it's bizarre.
Huh.
There's one section where you're riding like a ferry not a ferry. What do you call it? Like a
gondola.
Gondola. Thank you. Gondola. No, that's in the water, isn't it?
No, it is a gondola.
Okay, it's a horizontal or a diagonal gondola, and like, I'm going next to it, and my camera is constantly fighting with the terrain as it goes down, which is so odd to me. I don't know if I didn't even try to reposition the camera. I just was.
Oh, you can't, because I've had that issue with other things where like you're running along, and like you're running along a path on a mount, and you'll run by a mountain, but there's a curve. So the moment it curves, all of a sudden the camera like stutters.
The camera doesn't know what to do. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, it seems like there's an error with the camera coding where every now and then the camera's just like, I don't know where to be.
Mm-hmm.
I better look at you through the ground.
Right. And here's the thing. I feel like we're talking so negatively about this game. All these things that we're talking about, outside of the one time where I had to reboot because of the frame rate issue that was clearly affecting the gameplay. All this stuff does not affect gameplay at all. Just every once in a while, this little issue.
The camera work will get annoying when you fight some of the larger robots.
Okay.
Like if they hit you or clip you, the camera will stutter or randomly like look at you from below.
Oh.
So like that one.
Oh, have you ever tried to like get to a point on the map and you're going through like underbrush and stuff, and you're just like, where am I? Like no matter what direction you turn, there are trees everywhere, like bushes and stuff, and I can't even figure out how to navigate out of there, so I just kind of keep wandering around until I get there. Boy, I sound like I hate this game. I really like it.
we're getting the minor issues out of the way. The one problem that I keep having though feels like it was something like from a PS4 problem perspective.
Okay.
Every now and then I'll enter a brand new area, or I'll come out of a cutscene, and like I'm in like a building, and I go through a door after a cutscene and go to a wide open area. There's like a 1 second black screen.
Okay, yeah.
And then all of a sudden it catches up, and I'm like, was there supposed to be a loading screen here that you guys forgot to like program out?
We do know this is a native PS4 game.
Yeah. So it feels like there are problems, because every now and then you will get a load screen and it's just like continue, and I'm like, whoa, like, why was the load screen necessary then?
I actually read that they literally slowed down the speed in order to load the next thing because they wanted people to read the little hints or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, that's on there. Zach, I've literally sat there waiting for the game to load before I realized that I could press X to go.
Like the load screen will come up and it will say continue immediately.
There's no wait time.
Why have it then? Why is
it feels like this is completely and utterly unnecessary padding.
Yeah.
Now,
well, anyway, let's talk about something. Is there anything you guys like about this game?
Glorious.
It's very similar in terms of, you know, shooting glowy bits off of machines.
So I'm not gonna like it.
No. Yeah, like you won't like it.
All right, so
let
me elaborate on why I think the first game has boring combat, and just to see if it has changed at all. So my frustration with the combat was that it was tedious and every fight took a little bit too long, which was frustrating because I was never in danger of losing a fight. Like, the outcome was predetermined. It just took an annoying amount of time to get there. And every single combat could just get solved with hooking them into the ground with the little trap gun and then just shooting them real quick.
Nope.
Do you have to actually, like, use your brain this time in any way?
There's elemental stuff going on now where an enemy is not immune to certain elemental attacks, but they're definitely much easier to take down. Like, you can scan them and find out that they're weak to poison or they're weak to fire, and it's not just specific machines. You know, like all the ones, like the RAM ones or whatever. One RAM one might be weak to fire. One might be weak to poison. They're not all the same. You know what I mean? So you actually would have to scan to find its weak point.
Well, I'm further on in the game, you'll run into herds where you're going to have like 5 to 10 robots, and they're different varieties, and they don't wait for each other to attack. They all just rush you.
Okay.
And the problem is, like, some of them have antennas and call sirens to call in more friends.
So that's where you're using traps and stuff.
You have to use traps.
Yeah.
It almost feels like a Souls-like game.
Oh, man.
Like, later on, because there's a lot of dodging and rolling. I went up against a...
I'm say what you're describing doesn't sound very Souls-like.
Well, I went up against a terror... this thing called a terror tusk, which doesn't stop attacking. So you have to, like, put distance between, like, dodge, roll, distance, then start attacking this thing, and it just rushes right at you. So there's definitely a lot of planning, like, on how to take down some of these larger enemies, especially like the Thunderjaws, Terror Tusks, like some of the huge robots. And I'm having an absolute blast trying to figure some of them out. I know, Scott, you and I have talked about it before, but the first game, like figuring out where you are in the world is kind of cool.
Oh, do you get some of that more? Because that was some of the fun reveals in the original game, like with the.
There's definitely a few locations that you are going to iconically recognize.
Okay, that I get excited for that.
To the point that my wife walked into the room and she's like, "Are you there?" And I'm like, "Yes, I am."
That's cool. I want to ask you, because I'm having some issues with the skill tree, which I know Zack usually doesn't like skill trees. I'm finding this skill tree boring. Like I keep unlocking stuff that I never use. I don't know what to do next. I'm just overwhelmed by the sheer number of things that I can do that I never use.
Yeah, so Zack, you're gonna hate this. Instead of one skill tree, there's 5.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just thinking what you needed was more useless.
Yeah, right. There's like the hunter skill tree, the infiltrator, the machine head. Like there's all these different ones. Basically, run all the way down the hunter one and then start into the infiltrator, and you can just play your sniper game.
Okay, that's all I needed to hear. I unlocked something that was useful, where I can fire 3 arrows at once, which is cool. But you have to like draw, tap to load the other 2, and then like that's not convenient.
Yeah, I will tell you right now, from a sniping point, that's useful. If they ever see you, that is the most useless skill ever.
Oh, really?
Yo, how are the haptic triggers on this bad boy?
They're fun. There's some abilities that you get later on that like there's one, it's called the igniter, which basically you're like using it like a Zippo almost. But you hold your staff up to something and you just click the haptic trigger, but if you like pull it all the way down, it doesn't do anything.
Huh.
Oh, that's cool.
Like they've used the haptics fairly well in this.
Plus, like, there's noise that comes out of the controller too. Like whenever you fire a bow, I feel like it comes out of there.
I still love that Scott keeps pointing this out, even though it was a PS4 feature.
Yeah. Didn't notice it on PS4.
No,
but they've used the haptic triggers a lot. Like if you have to pry open a door, you'll like start to pull down the trigger, and it's like loose at first when you first get in there, and then you feel it like as you're prying open, like there's just the tension gets like stronger.
That's that good
and then
stuff.
If you use the precision bow, like as you draw it, like you can feel the tension as you like get further and further back. Like they did a really good job with the haptics on this.
Yeah, you've done more making me want to play it than anything else.
One other way to sell you on this game, Zack, is that the side stuff is actually interesting. There are side missions. CB, you'll know the one I'm talking about when you first get to the second city that's right before the Forbidden West, and there's like a guy that's in prison. You know what I'm talking about? That story was genuinely interesting, I thought. Even some of the, I'm not going to call them tombs, but it's the closest thing I can get to. Those relic chambers or relic, what do you call those?
The relic hunts.
Relic hunts, where you just got to try to find some relic, which I have no idea what it does yet because I haven't got that far, but those are genuinely fun to figure out. They are not like directly in your face what you need to do to get there, but there's only one specific way to get there, and it's really fun to kind of piece that together.
The side stories almost feel like Fallout side stories.
I was thinking Witcher side stories, but not as long.
Yeah, they're just little snippets that are like 20 to 30 minutes at most, and they're just fun.
They are. I'm really digging. I'm actually more interested in some of those side stories than I am the main one. But again, that was because I was in the first 10 hours, at least my first 10 hours of, before the world really opened up, which I know is not a selling point for the game, but you also don't have to comb the entire area like I do because I'm a nerd, but I love uncovering that map.
The scope of some of the robots in this feel much more grand than the first game. Like the first time I ran into a Thunderjaw, like it's pretty freaky.
Mm-hmm. They look more vicious.
Yeah, like
that's a T-Rex one.
The T-Rex. Right? There's other ones that are now just straight up predators.
What?
Like, they are invisible. and they will come out of nowhere and kick the teeth out of you. There's an area in the coastal redwoods where you run into like multiples of them. And so being hunted in a very like huge tree environment with a lot of like fog on the ground.
Oh, it feels like Predator.
Yeah, I'm like, they did a really good job with some of this. But I'm loving it. I'm invested in the story because it gets to a point where something happens and I'm just like, let's go. I want to see where this goes because there's so many elements that I want to see like how they all piece together now.
Right. I'm the same way. I haven't seen as far as you, but the first opening parts of the game feel very political as opposed to, I don't know, supernatural intrigue or what Aloy perceived as supernatural intrigue when she was starting the first game. And those politics don't really get interesting to me until, the line is crossed into the Forbidden West, where I was like, okay, you got my attention now.
Dude, you're going to find out something from another company.
Oh, okay.
That exists in this world.
Just stop, man.
Well, no, I'm just saying you're going to find something out. You'll know when it happens.
Uh-huh.
I want you to text me and be like, yo, like what?
Yeah. Okay. Sounds good. But, and I will say this again, I sound like I'm being negative about this game because I've only experienced those first 10 hours. I finally hit the spot where I don't want to put it down. I was kind of fighting to keep going because I kept getting distracted by stuff. And now I'm at the point where I had to quit because my battery died on my controller and I only have one. And I didn't realize that it was dying, so I had to charge it. But I'm looking forward to getting to my first tall neck and doing all that. And
you haven't even hit a tall neck yet in 10 hours?
Yeah.
Oh man,
again, keep in mind that first area. I can show you a picture of my map. Like I've hit this small, tiny portion of the map, and that's how long it took me to get. It took me 10 hours to get to it.
The map is enormous.
It's enormous. This is me like hitting it, like doing every side quest before moving on to main quest, hitting every campfire. Screw the freaking time trials. I'm not even touching those this time around. I did those in the first game, and I just have no interest in doing those again. Yeah, go ahead. Tell me you got them all. You got gold on all of them.
No. Once you really get into the Forbidden West, there's like 5 more collectible things that open up. Oh my god,
great! Did you try the? I can't remember what it's called. The board game.
Oh, Strike.
Thank you. That's what it's called. I just played the like training portion of it. It's really interesting. I'm not going to do it anymore.
It's worth a one-time play, and then you're like, eh.
Yeah.
It's a triple triad of game,
it is.
right?
It's like where if you win, you get, you win their pieces and you add to your collection type of situation. But it's like a board game where you take turn-based board game where your pieces have hit points and weak sides of their piece and stuff like that. It's actually really clever. I want to shoot machines.
Yeah.
Right. It's like Gwent in The Witcher. You're like, can you get back to The Witcher?
So, Horizon Forbidden West. I feel that we'll be talking about this one or at least I'll be talking about it for weeks. Chris will have it wrapped up by the end of the weekend. But I'm looking forward to really diving into the meat of this game, and I am loving it. So
great. Well, it didn't sound like you loved it, but
I know. I feel bad because were you feeling the same way I felt, CB?
It was a rough, slow start.
Okay, so it's not just me.
It hits the ground and just accelerates. Okay. Like I can't stop playing.
So it sounds a little like my journey with Days Gone, where I'm like, I don't know if I like this game, and then you just hit a point, and you're like, oh, this game's awesome.
Yeah, that's where I am at. Yeah. So I'm loving it.
The old Final Fantasy 13 defense. It gets great 8 hours in.
Yeah.
Which is so weird because I like the first 8 hours of Final Fantasy 13.
Me too. I also like a considered opening pace.
Yes.
So. Like I like the opening of Twilight Princess.
It's been a while, but I don't remember having a problem with it.
But anyway, CB, it's not the only post-apocalyptic adventure you've been on. You've been playing 35, I assume 35 millimeters is the name of the game. Coming out, I assume you're playing it on a Series X, I presume.
I am, and it shouldn't belong there.
Okay, tell me why.
This game needed to stay on PC.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. So first off, it's a post-apocalyptic game. You're trying to figure something out that happened. Majority of humanity is dead. Great visuals.
What kind of game is it?
It's a walking simulator.
Okay. I think it's a little unusual for you.
What's funny, because I started playing this game and it reminded me of 2 other games, and it turns out they were all 3 made by the same guy. Sergei Noskov. He's a Russian, makes games by himself. He made Sector 7 and In the Rays of Light, both games that I've played and reviewed and written stuff about before. He does one thing very, very well, which is world crafting. Like, it's fun to walk around the environment. The audio cues and everything are awesome. It gives me very much a Senua's Sacrifice vibe.
Oh, I'm listening.
Where you're just like walking through the woods and you hear something, you're like, what's going on over there? But the problem is the cursor in this game is 1 white pixel.
Super tiny.
And because the game is very, like, lots of, like, dark grayscale, like browns, half the time you can't see the damn cursor.
Is that done intentionally because it doesn't want to get in the way of the environment to, like, make you more immersed?
No, because it was originally on PC, where you could be a lot more
precise,
accurate with things like that. Where, like, hey, I came across this car. I want to open the door. Oh, but the click box is only this big, and I can't find the cursor because the car is also white.
Oh, jeez.
I'm like, this was poor design. But just the environment and world crafting that this guy can do is creepy. Like, seriously creepy. And part of the reason the game is called 35mm is you were a photojournalist before the world went to hell. And so you're carrying around your old camera, which shoots on 35mm.
Sure.
And so you're just going around taking pictures, but as the game progresses...
You've covered wars, you know?
You start... Yeah.
Wow, okay.
But you start to...
Frank Castle reference. Not Frank Castle.
Frank West.
Nope.
I haven't even played the game and I knew the reference.
No, I just messed up his name, man. Calm down.
But you start to notice things in the camera.
Like supernatural things?
Yeah, like creepy things?
Creepy things.
Like in the film that you've shot, or...
Well, because you take the picture and then immediately it shows you what the picture is.
And you're seeing things that aren't quite there.
Yeah.
Oh.
That's cool. I like that.
So, but just... I'm not super far into it because I'm very frustrated by the controls. But from what I've played so far, like... There's some elements, because especially if you're playing with like really good headphones, that just creep you out. Because I made the mistake of playing this at like midnight.
Yeah.
So I'm already in that tired state, and like you start playing with my head with audio cues. Then I'm like, all right, I'm done. Like, I'm gonna play this in the daylight. Like this game is playing with my head way too much.
So it sounds like the game is really got an intriguing story and setup and creepy factor, but it's just you're constantly fighting with the controls.
Yeah, you're fighting with the controls. It's real hard. And I know PC Master Race out there, like, yes, some things play better on PC. So, but yeah, I'm digging it. I love what this guy can do with storytelling. Like, Sergei does put together some really creepy stories, and I'm really anxious to see how this one kind of plays out. I don't want to give away anything, just because like in the very first like 15 minutes of the game, like a big action sequence takes place, and when you're running through the woods trying to like get away from this, and then you turn and it's just right there in your face. Like it.
So it sounds not like a walking simulator, but a running simulator.
There was only like 30 seconds of running versus 15 minutes of walking.
I was trying to make a bad joke.
I know, but sometimes your jokes are terrible.
I'm gonna put the fault on CB for not realizing that was a joke this time. Actually,
well, sometimes his jokes are so bad that I don't realize they're jokes.
I think you just like can sense when it's a dad joke, and you just kind of tune it out. Yep.
I'm like, Scott's talking. Just stop listening.
So you recommend it?
I would recommend it for people that just want like a little bit of an escapism game. Just know full well going into this that it's gonna play better on a PC.
All right. Fair enough. Well, moving on to Zack, who's also been playing a game that he has been eagerly anticipating, and that is Yoko Taro's Voice of Cards, The Forsaken Maiden. He's playing this on PS4. What can you tell me about this game, and how does it differ from the last one that you reviewed?
Right, yeah, so the last one only came out in like October of last year or something. Like it was very fast turnaround, which makes sense because I guess once you already have the card thing, you just basically are building new boards.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, but much like the first game, it is a world built entirely of cards. That's kind of the hook of it. Like all of your equipment and the world design and all the characters are all on playing cards essentially, and all the cards are drawn by Kimihiko Fujisaka, who famously the Drakengard artist, and then Yoko Taro is a writer and director, and Yosuke Saito is a producer, Keiichi Okabe on music. The whole gang's here, is the point. So the first game I had some problems with because the pace of play was excruciating. And it was coupled with the fact that the game was mind-numbingly easy until the final battle. It was just this slow, plodding nonsense. And as interesting as the characters were, it was just hard to want to get through it because it just took so long.
Mm-hmm.
This game has introduced a high-speed mode.
Hey.
So battles can play out at twice the speed, which is very good because it there's a lot of random encounters, right? It's very JRPG, and it just makes everything easier with high speed mode.
Now, is it just changing the speed, or because when you say high speed mode in a JRPG, it makes me think of the mode that they added to the Final Fantasy VII port, where I could just speed everything up, and I wound up screwing myself because I'm not getting encounters as often. So is that affecting any of that, like as far as like leveling up and stuff?
No, so you still have to cross the board one square at a time, one playing card at a time. That is, it flips over and reveals part of the map.
Mm-hmm.
So you still have to move around at the same speed. It's just basically like when you move, it's picking up your game piece pawn and moving it to the next square. Just all the animations basically play out at twice the speed.
Oh, okay. That's what I wanted to hear. That sounds like a good thing.
Which is, yes, it is. It's a godsend. And I guess they patched the first game with this high speed mode, but it's such a chore in the first game. And more importantly, they've increased the difficulty. You'll actually have to use some strategy instead of just clicking the same button throughout the whole thing. And a lot of status ailments happening, and you just have to be a lot more considerate with how you're playing.
Okay.
Which is just super cool for just so it plays better overall. And even like the dungeons are a little bit more interesting. You know, like in one of them you have to do a stealth section, which is just an interesting thing to have to do around playing cards. Or
a stealth section?
Stealth section.
Oh, stealth. I misheard you. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so you have to like sneak around, or you have to like roll dice to make certain things appear on the board and stuff like that. Almost like a DM thing. Which is cool, and it has a different. So these games only have one voice actor per game, right? Like whoever your dungeon master is. And what I thought was interesting is it's a different voice actor this time. I would have thought it was the same game master.
Oh, that's cool.
So it sounds like every session will have a new game master, which is fun. But the main crux of the plot, the Forsaken Maiden, as it were, is it's a seafaring adventure. In your every island in this archipelago has a maiden, and they're like the protector of the island, and they each have an attendant that protects them. Like their duties to protect them, because eventually they have to basically be sacrificed to their island in order to keep it afloat, or else it'll sink into the seafloor. And So you come across a ship, which is in the shape of a whale. It's super cute. You get to name it. I named it the Bon Vent, which is like some kind of weird Latin prayer or something. But basically, your crux of your game is you're playing this main character. His name's Baron. He's accompanied by this girl, Laddie, who you soon discover is the maiden of your island. She can't speak, however, and she's like run away from the main town. So you're trying to protect her from the townspeople, and whilst also trying to figure out what she's supposed to do for the island, because she doesn't even know how to sacrifice herself. So you're going to these 4 other islands and meeting their maiden and their attendant, and it's just like these 4 short stories, basically, that do it the best way possible, where you get like a fun episodic adventure, but it also builds your main cast along the way. And they're like link attacks, almost like Chrono Trigger, where 2 party members can team up to do some kind of weird, wacky ability. And it's fun because on every island, not only does every island have its own culture and personality and, way of life, like one's, they're all about fighting in their Colosseum, and the, another one is, they live like in this terrible swamp and stuff. So they just kind of like have almost like a gothic atmosphere. It's just kind of cool to see the different worlds. And it's fun because on each island you get teamed up with the maiden and the attendant. So you get these like 2 temporary party members everywhere you go, which I think is a lot of fun. And it's so much better paced and more interesting. Like all of the maidens and their attendants have an interesting relationship, because I would have just assumed they were all romantic going into it, because when you spend that kind of time with somebody, it's just going to get that way, but it's not necessarily. It gets into some topics you wouldn't necessarily get into in other games, which is kind of a Yoko Taro specialty, where you get a little bit darker and you're not afraid to talk about the taboo. And yeah, man, it's such a landslide improvement over the first game, I feel like. Because the first game, if it were for the name Yoko Taro, I would not have finished the first game, just because how excruciating it was to play combat and pace-wise. But this one, even without the name Yoko Taro, I think I would still play it, because it's just so fun.
That's cool, man. I'm glad to hear that it improved. And the big question I've got, which is, the music has always been a big draw for me for the 2 Yoko Taro games that I've played. I've gone back and listened to the Nier Replicant soundtrack afterwards. Does that follow in this series, or is that just reserved for the other games?
No, yeah, Keiichi Okabe's putting in work. It has that nice kind of lyrical melancholy that you would expect from the Nier games, especially. Mm-hmm. Like, it's definitely more Nier than Drakengard. Because in my brain, I've put enough time into them that like there's definitely a different musical distinction. Mm-hmm. But it has that more kind of somber, melancholic feel. They'd almost associate with Replicant more than anything. And yeah, so the music stellar. The small frustration with the music is that it doesn't have like a battle theme. Just keeps playing whatever area's music is, except for during boss fights. There is like a boss fight theme.
That's weird.
I wish it transitioned to a battle theme, because I was going through a dungeon, and I was thinking about like, why do I feel so compelled to put on a podcast as soon as any fight starts in this game? And I'm like, oh, it doesn't like, because when you go into Final Fantasy, it does that transition, does a little bit of that camera pan with the music and everything, and it feels like you're like, oh, it's battle time,
right?
It just doesn't kind of have that transition here. But it's just very like early, like Final Fantasy 1 through 4 or Dragon Quest early days style JRPG combat, and it's just, I don't know, it really captured me this time. I assume because of the increase in difficulty. There's an optional boss that I just can't beat right now, and I never lost a single fight in the first game, and I've lost a couple here.
Oh, okay. And you probably like that then. You liked a little bit more of a challenge.
Yeah, because it makes it feel like the random encounters matter.
Right. And
I'm pretty sure you're gaining levels a little slower as well. Like, I'm almost at the end of the game and I'm not max level, and I got to max level several hours before the last fight in Eldrager War. So it's just a better it feels a little like, Uncharted 1 is like a good game with fun ideas, but then Uncharted 2 comes along and really just nails it.
Yeah.
That's what this feels like, the Uncharted 2 of Voice of Cards.
Okay.
And I have to think they're so cheap to make, right? That I feel like you could just keep knocking these bad boys out.
Yeah. Sounds like it, man.
I'll be there.
The Uncharted of Yoko Taro games. Is that a box quote?
I don't know if they would like that.
Or the Uncharted 2.
Right, the Uncharted 2 of the Voice of Cards franchise.
Yeah. I like it.
Wow.
So again, that is Voice of Cards, The Forsaken Maiden, which you said you're playing on PS4.
Yeah, it's fun to monologue about a game that neither of you will ever play. Let me tell you that.
Someday I might.
Yeah.
Well,
I'll tell you, if anybody is interested in Voice of Cards, jump straight to the second one, because it's the same world, it's the same universe but different story, basically.
Oh, okay, so you're not missing anything story wise by jumping in.
No, in fact, I think it's like 20-ish years before the other game.
Oh, okay.
And there's not really any. There's like one small character crossover, so you're not missing anything.
All right.
Okay. Well, speaking of games I'll probably never play, Scott, you've been playing Zombie Rollerz Pinball Heroes.
Yeah, here's a game I'll definitely never play.
And just judging from the trailer, I get pinball mixed with Borderlands vibes.
Borderlands? I didn't even think about Borderlands. The graphics are somewhat cell shaded.
Yeah. But it just the dorky humor. Also,
man, there's not really any dialogue. I guess there's some dialogue in between worlds, but it's not anywhere near Borderlands kind of humor. It's just it's more like tongue in cheek humor. I guess Borderlands kind of is tongue in cheek, but pinball meets roguelike. You put two of my favorite genres together, and I absolutely have to try this game, just almost on sheer principle. It works. It's a video arcade pinball game that is not going to be as physically accurate as like the Pinball FX games. It's very floaty, kind of like remember like Super Mario Pinball Land on Game Boy, or Kirby's Pinball, or Metroid Prime Pinball.
Yeah, those
or even
Game Boy cartridges that required a AAA battery in them.
Yeah. Or like Sonic Spinball, where like it doesn't really feel like a real pinball machine. It just feels like it's a video pinball machine that's not relying on real physics. And I don't mean that in a negative way. It works good for this game, but you're in a zombie apocalypse, and the roguelike element comes in that there's a map that you go through that is procedurally generated. It's hexagonal. Hexagonal? Is that the right word? It's hexagons.
Hexagonal? I don't know.
Hexagonal. And you basically go through this map and you try to uncover areas to find different loot that offer different abilities when you're on a pinball table. And certain things on the map are, enemies that you have to fight. And then you'll enter a pinball table, and your job is to clear the table of all these zombies. But, as you go through it on a run, because, again, it is a roguelike, you're using different abilities, like my pinball has flaming fireballs trailing behind it that will burn enemies that happen to be in the path. Or my pinball gets poison, so when I hit an enemy with it, it also adds poison damage. Things like that. And then the strategy part of it comes then at the end of anytime you beat a level, you come back and the trail behind you is now overtaken by the zombie horde that's following you. You're basically escaping the zombie horde. So you can go into those hexagons that are covered by the zombie horde, but you'll have to like lose HP in order to do it. So you basically just have to avoid it. But it becomes kind of fun to try to figure out ways to uncover what I can and can't get to, and try out new things. Get to a boss. Reach the boss, get to the next level. There's five total levels. I'm only playing at the base difficulty. There's actually 3 difficulties. I've still not finished a run on the base difficulty yet. But I love the concept. I love the idea. I feel like the difficulty ramps up, and I did not really even mean for that to be a joke until I just realized it was a joke, because in pinball you have ramps. The main pinball areas where you're fighting normal enemies are very, very easy. It's all about just like building up your stats. The real challenge gets to the bosses, where you actually have to use strategies, and you have all these things at your disposal to use magic attacks, where you can pause the ball and shoot missiles directly at the enemy, or things like that. So it's such a jump in difficulty when you get to the bosses that I've realized that this is not a roguelike where your skill alone is going to allow you to plow through this game. You really have to go back and upgrade your new abilities your permanent abilities that come through, you're not going to survive on the way, which isn't a bad thing. It just gets a little tedious playing the same pinball boards over and over again, and not in a way where you play pinball, for score, where you're trying to figure out the table and stay alive. It is try to defeat these enemies without getting hit yourself.
Okay.
So
overall, how does it play?
It plays fine. I don't have any issues with any of the controls. I talked about Horizon Zero Dawn, where I felt overwhelmed by how many different things that I had at my disposal. I get a little bit of that here, which is weird to say for a pinball game, because pinball is, at its core, just two flippers, right? But I've got a special attack. I've got these other things that I have to go into a menu to equip, and it takes something simple like pinball and makes it complicated in a way that isn't super fun.
Enjoyable.
Like I miss the simplicity of just the two paddles sometimes. That could just be a me thing, because I'm so ingrained into the world of pinball. There is some fun, like, how when you're playing a pinball table, it's fun to figure out how the table works to make certain things happen and unlock new areas or unlock new missions. There are like these secret areas that you get that remind me of Super Mario World. Remember in Super Mario World when you get the key and you take it to the keyhole and it opens up a whole new area or whatever? That feels really cool. You get mini moments like that in here, where you find like a treasure room that you get like 15 seconds to spend to try to collect as much gold as you can, and it's rewarding to find those. But I'm enjoying the game, but it's not one I'm gonna like. I would just recommend, if you want a good pinball experience, I would recommend Pinball FX. But if you need a little bit more motivation than score, then this might be the route that you go.
Okay,
it's cute, it's fun, but it's not going to blow you away.
All right, well, fair enough. And you're playing that on Switch?
I am playing that on Switch, yes.
All right.
And it's a good place for it, because I can just kind of knock out a board and whenever I want to, and start a new run if I need to.
Fair enough.
But speaking of pinball, I've got another interview for you guys. I sat down and talked to Tony Walsh, who is the company director and founder of Phantom Compass, who developed an upcoming game called Rollerz of the Realm Reunion. I can't wait for you guys to hear this. This is a really fun interview as well. I'm going to go ahead and play that for you right now. I'm here with Kevin, writer for The Gaming Outsider, and Tony Walsh, company director and founder of Phantom Compass, developer of Rollerz of the Realm Reunion. Tony, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Very excited to talk to you. I am a massive pinball fan. As Kevin will tell you, I talk about it nonstop on our podcast. Very excited to talk to you about Rollerz of the Realm, but before we get Rollerz of the Realm Reunion. But before we get there, I have a very important question for you. It's one that we ask every first-time guest of The Gaming Outsider. Hope you're ready for it.
I'll get ready.
What are your personal top 3 favorite video games of all time?
Oh my God.
Yeah, I know, right?
I'm over 50 years old, so that's a lot of video games. Let me think. Oh my God. Well, I'll just think of the ones I played competitively. So we'll go with Myth: The Fallen Lords, which is an old Bungie series, originally cross-platform Mac and PC, had a competitive, kind of a real-time strategy type game. So that was good times for a few years. Battlefield 1942, I played semi-professionally in a league. That was good times. Maybe Tribes 2. These are all, old school. I as I got older, I had less and less time to actually play games. So, there's so many I could choose from. It's just ridiculous. But anyway, great question.
Awesome, man. Well, it's always fun to, we don't get a chance to talk to developers often, so it's good to see what games that you guys love as well. Now, I have to assume, and hopefully this isn't a bad assumption, that since you've made a pinball video game, that you're fans of physical pinball tables as well. Do you have any favorite tables that you've played over the years, or is that a poor assumption?
It's not a poor assumption at all. I mean, actually, the guy that would be great to answer this question, Ken, was a team member for most of Rollerz of the Realm reunion, and sadly is not on this call to answer this question right now.
Sure.
But I'll just to go back to my own sordid past. I mean, I grew up in video game and pinball arcades as a wee lad, and definitely played a lot of traditional pinball, as well as sort of the nascent arcade games of the time, the Space Invaders, Pac-Man, Galaga, all that stuff.
Sure.
From back in the day. So for me, I'm not really a pinhead. I do super appreciate pinball, but it's not the kind of thing where like there's a particular table. I mean, maybe Addams Family.
Good call.
That's a good one. The Kiss. I know there's more than one Kiss machine, but those are just some that pop to mind. I often like gimmicky pinball. So if there's just weird places you can put the ball and have unusual stuff happen, there's a Simpsons one that I liked that actually had a mini pinball table inside the pinball table.
Yep.
So those are always cool. But there are, most of our team members at the very least have had dozens and dozens of hands-on hours on physical pinball, even if we don't, really qualify ourselves as like true pinheads.
I don't even know what qualifies.
Like Scott here.
Yeah. I don't know if you call me a wizard, but I just love to play.
Nice.
Have ever since I was a kid. So it's love to hear what kind of tables you guys like to do. So.
So before we actually get into Rollerz of the Realm reunion specifically, would you be able to share a bit of the history of Phantom Compass, like how you guys came together, what inspired you all to make games, basically?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I've always been a gamer, from tabletop to, like I was saying, the video game arcades, and the many decades following. So when I was a kid, we didn't have training to do to create video games, and while it was definitely a hobby and a passion of mine, I sure didn't think as a young teen and even later that I would be making video games someday. But my background is on the creative side. I'm mainly an illustrator by background, and that allowed me to get hands-on with a lot of interesting creative projects over the years, and got me into digital art, which then got me into interactive digital media, which then got me into edutainment, CD-ROMs, which then got me into, web games. And so, it's like decade after decade, there's some new, kind of cool new way to get closer to video games. And in the early 2000s, I spent quite a lot of years working with TV companies here in Toronto, Canada, helping them create digital content for their kids' TV shows. And that's kind of where I developed my more senior kind of game-adjacent skill set, where I was helping some of these studios on award-winning projects and helping them win funding and things like this. And I thought, I'm pretty successful doing this. Maybe I should try this on my own. And of course, what they don't tell you as a creative starting your own business is that eventually you will be running the business.
Yeah.
I founded Phantom Compass in 2008. It was a very small operation in the sense that I mirrored the TV production company model that I was accustomed to in keeping a very low staff, and then hiring in as projects came in and out, and ended up bringing on as a full-time studio partner one of my oldest friends, Joss Ewell, who came to join me in maybe 2009, 2010. Then I added another friend of mine, Erica Evans, as a studio partner, and she's our production head, and she came from kids educational TV and then AAA video game development after that. So she was a writer-director at Public Broadcaster here in Toronto, and then went over to Silicon Knights in the Niagara area here in Canada, where she helped that company do its AAA PC and console work. So
Cool.
We started small here, and we really kind of keep it to a small core. But we do follow the film and TV model, and when we bring, when we have multi-year, larger scale projects, we might staff up to 20, 25 people. These days, more typically, it might be between 8 and 12 people. So very tiny by larger video game company standards, but maybe by indie game standards, a pretty decent size.
That's really cool. I would love to pick your brain about education in video games at some point because
yeah, sure.
I'm actually an educator by day. I teach 4th grade.
Nice.
And always looking for ways to, because kids love games just as much as I do.
Yep.
And that's like an easy way for me to get an in with them to make them want to learn. And,
for sure. Yeah.
We could do a whole podcast on that at some point.
Hey, I'd be happy to chat again.
Yeah, definitely. We'll have to keep in touch. But let's go ahead and talk about Rollerz of the Realm Reunion. So we've talked a little bit about it on the podcast, but for those listening who haven't heard of this title, can you explain just exactly how a pinball RPG works?
Yeah, so it's a little more than like a thematic table design. We actually take like a role-playing game campaign from, it would be typical for a computer role-playing game, and every pinball table is a scene and a storyline, and we progress through 30-odd different scenes in the story, and of course there's a role-playing party with heroes in it. In the original Rollerz of the Realm, which was released in 2014 on PC and PlayStation 4 and PlayStation Vita, you started with a very small group of heroes, a rogue, a knight, then you added a healer. Later on, different characters would join your party. And what we do with traditional pinball is kind of jiggle it around quite a bit, take lots of liberties in terms of how the game plays. So you might be familiar with digital pinball games like Devil's Crush, yes. Where there are basically little enemies on the pinball table, and that's what we do in our game. Basically, you as the player are playing a party of characters. Every character in your party represents a life in your pinball game. And in the scene, which is the pinball table, little enemies will come out of various areas, and some of them will attack your pinball flippers. And they usually do that with ranged weapons, although some of them will walk right up to your flippers and smash them. Your flippers will get shorter as they get damaged, and it's up to you to manage your party members to best effect. For example, you can use the healer to slowly regenerate your flippers, also to restore defeated heroes in your party. Once a ball sewers, that ball is basically out of play, and you can use any of the other heroes unless you build up enough mana to restore the one that you lost that you wanted to use again. So we kind of really blend genres quite a bit. And I guess the fortunate thing about having released that title so long ago now, it's almost 8 years, or just about 8 years, we've had a lot of time to think about what we would do differently were we to do it all over again, and we're fortunate enough now to be working on the sequel.
That sounds really cool. I have played the 2014 Rollerz of the Realm, and as a massive pinball fanatic, it's been a lot of fun. To see it be something more than just a score grab. So
yeah,
kudos.
And we do work with the landscape orientation and like quite a bit more than you'd expect in it doesn't really. Some of the boards are reminiscent of traditional pinball, but many of them have a lot more width to them than a typical table would.
Right.
And I mean, it's if you play video pinball, we move to different areas of the board depending on what's happening. Not all the time, but often we do. And the original game has all kinds of like neat little moments with like maze navigation, or just finding little secrets on boards, or how to get into a certain shot to get into an area that you just noticed. So there's some nice touches and some good enemy characters and boss fights and all that kind of stuff. So it's not the pinball that I grew up with. It's definitely a genre blend, and it's pretty special in that regard. There's not a lot of games like it.
Very cool.
Yeah, that's a really cool concept, to be honest with you. When I first heard about it, it intrigued me very rapidly. It's just different. It's not something you hear of. So like you said, Rollerz of the Realm, it's been almost 8 years. what can new players or players that had played the original expect differently in Reunion from the original?
Yeah, great question. Basically, it's the core. A lot of the core concepts are retained, but we do make the game kind of like even friendlier to pick up and play. We reduce some of the punishment and some of the friction from the first game, so there's actually more play flow. In the first game, when you wanted to switch to a different party member, and you could have up to 10 characters in your party. In Rollerz of the Realm Reunion, you have 3 out of 5 total. So you pick a roster to bring onto a playfield with you, and you can't bring all your party members like the first game. You can only bring 3, and those are basically your pinball. In a certain sense, those are your pinball lives as well. But the first game, you had to cradle the pinball to swap to a new character, and it was fine to do that. But it kind of interrupted the play flow. So you did have to really intend to pause, find a break in play, while your flippers are being attacked or whatever stressful thing is going on, and then switch to a different character. But this time now, we are allowing you to hot swap literally at any time. So what that does is sets up a much, much more flowing, dynamic field of gameplay where you can set up one character with another character. So the knight, the different pinballs are different sizes and shapes and have different stats and abilities. I didn't mention that the first time around, but that's continued here as well. And so it gives you tactical options that you can exercise as a player. So the knight, the big heavy ball, he knocks over enemies pretty often. When an enemy is knocked over in Rollerz of the Realm Reunion, they're stunned temporarily. If an enemy is stunned, the rogue has a much higher chance of a surprise attack and an instant defeat of that enemy. And so you can set up one hero by using another hero's innate abilities or special abilities. Every hero also has kind of like a power attack. The knight summons a shield that guards the flipper area from damage and prevents balls from sewering. The rogue has a pet dog that she summons, so kind of like an instant multi-ball. And the rogue doesn't always have to be in play while the dog's in play. So you can power up the rogue, summon the dog, switch to the knight. Now you're tag teaming with the knight and the dog. There's also a much more active healer character in this game where the healer drops a healing staff onto the playfield. So you've kind of created your own target, which you can then shoot at. If you hit it 3 times, your flippers are fully healed. There's tons of stuff in this game that make it more energetic and exciting to play. The first game was great, like no knocking the first game, but it was our first major consumer release. It was 2014. We've had lots and lots of time to think about improvements, and we've rolled out a ton of them in this game. So I think you're going to get all the flavor of the first game, but a lot more surprises and fun this time around.
That's awesome. You said dog and you had me bought in, so.
Yeah, you can pet the dog in this game too.
I was just going to ask that.
Hey, we'd be crazy not to, right? Like, I mean, hey, if you're going to have a dog, come on. Gotta pet
That's
it.
awesome.
I think there's a whole Twitter handle dedicated to whether or not you can pet the dog.
Oh, there sure
in
is.
video games.
100%. Yep.
Yeah. It's awesome. Well, one of the features I've noticed in recent gameplay videos is the addition of stealth mechanics, which is a completely new concept for me in the world of pinball. Can you share how that works mechanically, since it looks like those sections don't, have the use of traditional flippers?
Yeah, so one thing that we do in this game is we allow you to launch from, generally speaking, from the flipper area of a pinball table. So we actually removed the launch area in this game, and that motif of launching kind of anywhere becomes used in different table settings. And we have kind of a stealth level. I hesitate to call it a pinball table. And we take some pretty major liberties in this game where some of the playfields are much, much more pinball light than others. And in the stealth tables, it's very light on pinball and very heavy on kind of ball rolling and marble rolling.
Yeah.
But you can launch your ball with a kind of like an instant launcher that you pull back on and release. and we just place that wherever the ball spawns. We just put that there. So that's something you can enjoy in any table, not just stealth. But we put you into that area. You've got to roll the ball around, and usually there's one or two parts of that board with little micro pinball areas where you can do quick little tight battles and then finish those up. But otherwise, the gameplay is a lot more like Metal Gear Solid than anything. So you're kind of rolling this ball around, trying not to bump into civilians or break pottery to alert nearby guards. You need to observe their guard patrols to kind of like time it correctly, so you're rolling past them when they're turning the other way or whatever. And if you want to add more challenge for yourself, you can always play one of the less agile pinballs. Another feature that we have unique to this IP is that pinball tilt becomes character agility. So basically, the more light and agile your character is, the more you can basically tilt. And we don't penalize you for that. That's a bonus. So they make heavy use of that on the stealth boards.
That sounds awesome. And it looked like there were some like levels that resemble like those. Remember those old school Labyrinth games? I'm old.
Oh,
but
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's like we borrowed from a lot of ball physics places, including actually an old Taito arcade game called Ice Cold Beer. Which is a stand-up. It's almost like a side-scrolling ball rolling puzzle game.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. It's got the metal rods in the front of it.
Yeah, and you tilt up one side of the kind of like platform or the other side, and you kind of try to roll the ball so that I think you're trying to get it into score areas. If I remember correctly, I definitely did take pictures of that machine the last time it was in a barcade.
I think you're trying to avoid the holes to get as far to the top as you can.
Oh, is that what it was?
To get the one at the very top.
So that is the gameplay that we have two levels that are like that. Where you're trying to, there's things that you want to get and there's things that you want to avoid, and we directly inspired by that one.
This just sounds like so much fun.
It's been fun to work on, I'll tell you that. And I can't wait for more people to get their hands on it and check it out.
Awesome. Now, I grew up playing a lot of video pinball games like Mario Pinball Land, Metroid Pinball, Sonic's Pinball, and countless others. Was there any inspiration from games like those when you guys were making Rollers of the Realm Reunion? Yeah,
I mean, some of the Sonic Pinball levels, like I do remember playing and quite enjoying. I would say, like I had mentioned earlier, I think it was SNES, Devil's Crush. I think that game went by different names in different regions. And there's like another Nintendo game called Odama that's kind of like got this giant ball, and there's some funny ball physics stuff going on with that one. And then Pinball Quest is another sort of kind of a medieval pinball mashup hybrid. And so we definitely there's lots of inspirational games that went into the first edition in 2014, and then we widened it up for this latest edition as well, and just drew inspiration from more places.
Awesome.
Cool. Do you guys have a firm release date for Rollers of the Realm Reunion yet, or is there maybe a price point?
Yeah, price point I believe is around $23-24 US. I think we have that in Steam, but maybe it doesn't display, and maybe only we can see it. But yeah, so I hadn't actually realized that wasn't public. So we're shooting for around the $24 mark. Firm release date, I mean, as the months creep on in this year, I think we're going to have to make an announcement soon. We're in that indie dev position where we don't really want to release it until it's really, really ready. Yeah. And I mean, we've released a few games and we've not really had trouble with launch dates, but it's I kind of feel like if you announce a launch date too early, you're cursing yourself a little bit. So we're gonna cling to that. I mean, I'd say it won't be earlier than summer, which leaves there's a tight window for indie games after that. So we'll see what we can do, and if for some reason we're not hitting the quality bar that we want, then we'll look at things like delays. But we haven't had to delay anything yet.
Cool.
Awesome. Now Kevin is going to be reviewing this for us whenever it releases, because he's the smart one that has a PC that can play games. I'm the weirdo that has a Mac. So
nice.
Is there any word on possibly bringing this game to consoles or Mac in the future?
Consoles we would love to do. We're going to need a good partner for that, though. Basically, like, we want to be able to work with good publishers who can really maximize the reach of this game. It's not something we can do easily on our own, being an indie studio, and you guys know discovery in video games is really tough, especially for indies. Mac and other platforms is always possible. It's tough with Mac. It's funny. Our technical director is a Mac guy, but it's like 5% of the audience, and it can be tough to do a Mac release and then support bugs with so few. Not that you're any less important than anybody else,
I get it.
Scott, but yeah.
It's totally get it.
It's tough. So, I mean, it's not off the table, though. I will say that. If we have enough success with this, we'll bring it out to as many platforms as we can. But definitely eyeing Switch, because it played the original game played great on the Vita, and I would love to get that same feel of having it in your hands and playing it in your hands that way. It's pretty fun on a portable device. So yeah, everything's possible right now.
Awesome. I would love to have it on console. So yeah,
cool.
I just Mac is the only home computer that I use because I'm just I'm a weirdo.
Yeah, console would just be a matter of time, and depending on if we're able to partner up with somebody, it might be a simultaneous release or it might be console following desktop release.
Awesome. Anything in the future that you can share with us from Phantom Compass, or is that all?
Yeah, we're working on a brand new IP. We usually work on at least one project at a time, so there's always some overlap. So part of the studio right now is doing pre-production work on a brand new IP that is a totally different flavor than anything we've produced before. We tend to do like pretty heavy genre stuff. One of our last games was an 80s cartoon inspired car combat game. So Mad Max meets Gem and the Holograms.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah, it was fun to work on. That one's called Auto Age Standoff. But in any case, this upcoming game, we will let you guys know when we're going to talk about it. But that will be late 2023 or something along those lines. And it's in early stages right now, but funded and in production.
Great. So where can our listeners follow you and Phantom Compass for more information about Rollerz of the Realm Reunion?
You can follow us on Twitter at Phantom Compass. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Phantom Compass. That's probably the easiest two places. Also, phantomcompass.com is our web address, and you'll be able to find all of our socials through that. So please do look us up online, give us a follow, and we'll be happy to have you come aboard.
Awesome. Definitely will. Tony, thank you so much for chatting with us today. It's been a pleasure, and we really do wish you the best for your upcoming release. It looks like a great game.
Thanks so much, guys. I cannot
wait to get my hands on this. Yeah, thank you.
Much appreciated. Thanks.
All right, man. Well, we'll talk to you later.
Bye.
See ya.
Thanks again, Tony. That was a lot of fun, and looking forward to chatting with you again, hopefully in the future. But before we move on to our topic, I want to welcome a couple new Facebook members. Actually, just one, Savannah Hazel. Welcome to the group. If you'd like to join the Facebook community, you can do so at facebook.com/groups/thegocast. Also, our new Discord members. We have Evelyn Rose Hall, who you just heard talk from Stegosoft Games, joined our Discord. So stop in and say hi and let her know what you think of her game, because she put a lot of love into that one for sure. And if you'd like to join the Discord server, you can find the link in the show notes for this episode. Also, drop us a review on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Google Play Music, Spotify, wherever you listen to the show. Helps us get the word out. And lastly, check out our website, thegamingoutsider.com. There you can find all of our episodes as well as all of our written content, including reviews this week for Sifu, which Zack wrote, and also Kevin's review of Dragon Saddle Melee are all on the site. So please check that out again, thegamingoutsider.com. With that, let's go ahead and jump into this week's From the Outside In topic. This week's From the Outside In topic is an idea that came from our own Christy Flores. She wanted to know what game franchises we would choose to play if we were limited to only 5 for the rest of our lives. The stipulations are that you can play any game in the series, past or present, or future for that matter, but you can't play any other games outside of those 5 franchises ever again. We thought this would make for an interesting topic, so we asked all of you what games you would choose. We're going to share those as well and then wrap up with our own choices after we hear your guys's. So let's start over on Facebook. I will start with Sean Coates. He says, number 1, Wolfenstein. Let's see, Wolfenstein, but just the machine gun games era plus the OG. I wasn't a fan of Return to Castle Wolfenstein or that other one from 2008 simply called Wolfenstein. Far Cry spin-off games can be hit or miss. Looking at you, New Dawn, but this franchise doesn't show any signs of stopping. Mario. I'm going to cheat and say that includes everything. Mario Kart, Paper Mario, Dr. Mario, you name it. I'm including it. Fight me.
Star Wars. Include Donkey Kong?
See, I don't know. I don't know. Does that?
Nah.
It feels like a cheat for sure. He goes on to say Star Wars, just like Mario, this includes everything. And then lastly, Grand Theft Auto, because of course I'd include this. How do you guys feel? I feel like Mario is such an easy answer because you get everything. You get platformers, you get sports games, you get puzzle games.
Mario and Sonic at the Winter Olympics.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, it feels like a bit of a cheat because Nintendo slaps Mario at everything.
I would say Star Wars is the bigger cheat because Star Wars is just like a brand overlay. Anyway.
Yeah, but I feel like there's more different types of games in the Mario than there is in.
I mean, it is still
there's a Star Wars kart racer, for God's sake. I mean,
yeah, but is it good?
Pod Racer.
Well, Pod Racer's great, but they're also like Super Bombat Racing, which was an actual.
I think I remember one where Darth Maul is in the cart. I think I remember.
He's got a big bobblehead. Yeah. Shout out, Wolfenstein. Shout out to Wolfenstein. Interesting pick. I know that's Sean's. I think Sean's favorite game is Wolfenstein: The New Order. So that makes sense.
It was a fun game.
Yeah, I prefer New Colossus myself, but they're both great.
New Colossus went some places, man.
Yeah, it did. Yeah, it did.
Oh my god!
I still cannot wait for a follow-up.
How do you top that?
I don't know.
Don't care.
I don't forget it, man.
Just keep it coming.
I'm really starting to think we're not going to get Wolfenstein 3.
Probably not.
Because they're making Indiana Jones, and Youngblood showed you how it turns out for all the characters. So I'm not. I want Wolfenstein 3. I want to fight Mecha Hitler. I just don't know if we're going to get it.
I don't know if they could get away with that. Do you think they could?
Well, the creative director has gone on record like that. The trilogy will only end if it can end with Mecha Hitler. Because how else can you end a Wolfenstein trilogy?
Yeah. I mean, it's got to go there. I actually think that has to be the next logical point because you fought the other people. Like the only real villain left is Mecha Hitler.
Right. Well, we'll see if we get it in this new Microsoft era or not.
Hopefully.
Yeah, we'll have to see. CB, why don't you go next?
All right. Josh Steima, keeping it plain and simple for us. Grand Theft Auto, Max Payne, FIFA, Resident Evil, and Assassin's Creed.
Assassin's Creed's a good one.
Josh must really love Max Payne because you only get 3 of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And aren't only the first 2 good?
3's okay.
That's the only one I played, and I thought it was really okay. Like, just okay.
I mean, at least Resident Evil gives you a wide variety.
Yeah, that's true. That's a lot of... You play Operation Raccoon City.
Mercenaries.
Yeah. Umbrella Corps.
Was that the one with that was like a shooter on the Wii? Wasn't there an on rails?
No, that was the Dark Side Chronicles and the Umbrella Chronicles.
Yep. Oh, there's also Dead Aim, which is the PS1 rail shooter.
Oof.
Rich history.
Yeah.
Troy Heinritz writes in, Final Fantasy, Uncharted, The Last of Us, Horizon, and Zelda.
Horizon, a bold choice with it only being 2 games in the...
Right. I guess it does ensure future entries you get to play. So maybe if you really like the first one, he was hype. We asked this on the verge of the second game, so, hype train strong. But yeah, Horizon, bold choice.
Yeah, remember I was talking, it took me 10 hours to get to the Forbidden West in the next one? Troy, it took him 6 hours to get to Chain Scrape. Just to give you an idea of how methodically he plays that game.
Yeah, that took him a while.
Yeah. Let's see. Sean Fuller simply said, no, thank you. So he's not even going to participate. I just had to.
He refuses to play the game.
I thought that was really funny. So
let's choose 5 franchises for him.
No.
We will not.
Hello Kitty Kart Racer.
Oh, okay. All right, I'll play this game. He's going to do Hello Kitty, Barbie games. We'll say
the Barbie, My Horse and Me.
That would include Barbie's Horse Adventure.
Barbie. Yeah, that would be. Yeah.
We
original Xbox exclusive, if I remember correctly.
There you go. I'm trying to think of what other. See, it's tough to have like bad games that there are no such thing as bad games, but games that he wouldn't like that are franchises. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I'm gonna give him Sudeki, even though it's one game.
The Imagine series from the Nintendo DS.
The Man game.
There you go.
The Guy game.
The Guy game, excuse me.
Great, now Sean's a criminal.
Oh, boy.
All right. Well, moving over to Discord, we have Dead Cyan, Mario, Smash, Uncharted, God of War, and Pokemon.
Yeah, I think he could have got away with Smash falling under the umbrella of Mario.
No way.
No.
You can't give Sean this much power.
No. Well, especially
I
because
refuse.
the main character of the most recent one is Kirby.
Smash.
Just because of the opening
Smash
cutscene?
But I mean, he is the savior of Smash. It is Kirby.
All right.
You know what, Sean? I am going to take you up on the fight. I'll meet in the parking lot of 8-4.
Uncharted, God of War. God of War, you could go all the way back from God of War 1, 2, 3, Ascension,
Ghost of Sparta.
Ghost of Sparta, the reboot, the upcoming one.
Chains of Olympus.
That will be it, right? That's supposed to be the end of
No, that's the end of the Norse God trilogy. Norse God duology.
The Norse duology comes to an end.
All right, I like it.
There's more. There are more mythologies for Kratos to rip apart with his bare hands.
Waiting for him to go to Egypt.
Unless they do the very predictable thing and kill him off.
Yeah.
Mark Zizmansky writes in, with Mario, great games, but there's also a lot of them. Just checking. This includes Luigi's Mansion, right? No. No dice, Mark.
No.
No Luigi Mansion for you.
I don't know.
It is not a Mario game.
No. That's part of the Luigi franchise.
Is there a Luigi franchise?
Yeah, there's Luigi's Mansion
1, 2, and 3.
Luigi's Mansion 2. Luigi's Mansion 3.
And what wasn't there the Luigi's Mansion on DS too?
That was the third one.
Oh, I thought there was like another one.
Something the moon, the dark side of the moon, or
the dark one. Anyway, he also writes in with number 2, Metal Gear Solid. You can keep the NES game. Great series, though.
Oh man, I would just go back to play those just because.
Metal Gear Solid is a compelling choice.
I feel asleep.
Number 3. Yes, wow. Forza. In my opinion, the best racing series out there. Number 4, Sonic. Throwing my wife a favor here. She loves that Mean Bean Machine. I like most of them too. And then number 5, Rogue Legacy. I still need to beat it. But then the true number 5, I guess, is Left 4 Dead. Always had a good time, even when limited to 4 maps. To this day, when I open the medicine cabinet, I shout pills here.
That's right, Francis.
That's awesome.
Pills here.
Shout out to Mark, because he actually started Rogue Legacy like this week. We've been convincing him to play it on Discord, and he finally picked it up.
So this is why the number 5 Rogue Legacy is a joke that I don't understand.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. I'm all caught up now.
Drew Ross says, I'd be good with Fallout, Elder Scrolls, Call of Duty, Final Fantasy, and NBA 2K. Boy, that sports one in there. Just I think somebody up above did that too. With FIFA.
Yeah,
Didn't
FIFA.
Josh do that? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's like
it's smart. You get a game every year, I guess.
Does the Elder Scrolls include actually I guess Fallout, does that include Fallout in space? Also called Starfield?
No.
Starfield? No.
It's not the same franchise.
Don't lie to me. It's Fallout in
Same
space.
developer. But that's it.
Everybody out here trying to stretch these rules.
Yeah.
Man.
All right. Brandon Lloyd. Fire Emblem, XCOM, Fallout, Final Fantasy, and Halo. XCOM is a bold choice.
Yeah, there's only because how far back can you go? Because the XCOM games it was rebooted, right?
If XCOM on original PlayStation,
right, and then there was XCOM that came out on Xbox One, and then XCOM 2.
360 actually, but yeah.
XCOM the Bureau Declassified.
I was gonna say there was a spin-off of that game that wasn't even.
Oh yeah, I forgot the game that nobody wanted to make.
Yeah.
By the way, I didn't tell you guys I picked up XCOM 2 this week. I haven't played it yet, but
I'm gonna laugh when you play that game.
Why? It's timed?
No. Well, yes. Kind of.
No, it's just I think it's incredibly difficult. As somebody who loved that first XCOM reboot, I really couldn't get into XCOM 2, to be honest.
I mean, it was $5, so I couldn't.
Oh yeah, I think I own it I think I got it on sale somewhere too, which is.
I'm pretty sure mine was a pricing error because it was like all of the expansions and everything for XCOM 2 for $5.
Yeah, I kind of want to pick up the Switch version because I think it'd be cool there, but
I wish I would.
I thought XCOM 2 was like borderline mean spirited.
Oh really?
Yeah, or maybe my Tactics brain ain't what it used to be. I don't know.
No, that game really does want to punch you in the face.
They're really like, yes, it's like yeah, it wants to kick you when you're down. Like in Demon Souls, how every time you die, the worlds get harder.
Yeah,
it's a little bit like that. It's just like, this is not nice.
Great.
Anyways, you got a lot of fun ahead of you. Alan Scheck writes in. Grand Theft Auto and Assassin's Creed for their modern and historical open worlds with fun gameplay and decent stories. Also, I think both have VR coming out at some point, so that would give me something to play in VR. There you go, planning ahead. I see that's smart. You got to plan ahead.
Yeah.
He also writes in with Halo. Love the old games. Sounds like maybe Infinite is headed in the right direction. These games are just too epic to lose. And then he also writes in with Minecraft and Lego, because if I get bored of my selected franchises, I could always play a knockoff of a different one or build my own. That's actually pretty wise in that regard.
I like it.
Smart.
David Newman writes, I think for me, given it's only 5 franchises, I'd want titles with large, expansive worlds to occupy my time. He starts with Fallout. Fallout 3 was one of my favorite games of all time. Also enjoyed 4, and even 76 for the little I got to play. Plus, David, you could go back and play Fallout 1 and 2, which people just rave about as being even better. I have not experienced them, but you got that going for you, too. Elder Scrolls. Skyrim was a ton of fun. I enjoyed Elder Scrolls Online with my buddies. Just wish they did a better job with quest progression and sharing quests. We would probably still be playing if that was better. That would be a game I can play until the new game from each franchise comes out. Far Cry 5. I love that formula, and they've got a lot of entries. Assassin's Creed, again, a lot of entries, and I enjoy changes they've made. Just keep giving me more AC. Star Wars, one of my favorite franchises on any medium. Just want more Star Wars in my life. And honorable mentions for Red Dead Redemption, Grand Theft Auto, and Insomniac's Spider-Man. So, good call there. Star Wars still feels
just say Marvel.
I was going to say, can we just say Marvel?
That would be a cheat.
If Star Wars counts and Marvel counts,
it
right?
It would have to.
I know, but to me, that just feels like such a cheat.
I mean, I'm with you, but I also thought Star Wars is a little bit
because
cheat,
Star Wars, you could even go back and play old school games too, man. Like, you know,
because to me, like Star Wars isn't a franchise; it's a branding. You know, it's like it's not. It's too big.
Yeah,
I would say Mario is almost too big too. Like if you said
Mario is definitely too big.
Yeah.
If you said like Mario platformers or Mario RPGs, then you'd have like Super Mario RPG and the Paper Mario games and.
This is why Sean and I are fighting.
I don't know.
All right. Well, Thomas Bex, Fallout, Football Manager, for those of you that like soccer, Baldur's Gate, and I'd have to think about the other two.
Yeah. A couple point-and-click adventures, I'm assuming, for him.
Oh, because I can't think of Myst. There you go. There's a franchise for you.
It's like, but there's nothing. But I mean, there's nothing else coming out, right? That's the problem.
Myst 2, Riven, and the new one, Real Myst.
Right, but I'm saying they're not making any more Myst games.
There's plenty of time in the future.
I don't think anybody wants to be saddled with just Myst.
Yeah.
But I'm picking something for him.
Okay.
Throwing one.
There you go. Football Manager.
Aaron, he's Aaron Hughes II writes in, with Forza, Final Fantasy, Pokemon, Star Wars, and Assassin's Creed, a cheat choice would be Overwatch or League of Legends, which is a multiplayer MOBA fun. Get out of here with your cheat choices.
I mean, come on. If you're going to pick a MOBA, pick Smite. Then you got all the different brands.
Yeah, I don't really want to play with Stranger Things characters.
By the way, did you see that what is it, Uncharted characters like Nate and Phil are going to be in Fortnite?
Yes.
So how long before kids say their dad's playing like an Uncharted game, they're like, hey, that's a guy from Fortnite?
I mean, that's what the Uncharted people are hoping for, right?
Yeah.
Is that the kids say, well, where does this guy come from?
At this point in time,
I like that they included the Nolan North and Tom Holland versions, though.
Yeah. I mean, at this point in time, Fortnite is just getting to the point that it's just an advertising medium.
Yeah.
Yeah. I saw a clip of Spider-Man shooting somebody with an assault rifle, and I decided that this game was not for me.
That does just sound so weird. Like I haven't seen the gameplay, but I'm picturing it, and it just sounds so wrong.
It's so jarring, and you're like, this is a character who goes out of his way. You know, in his game where they're like, we had to write an AI code to make sure he never killed anybody. Anyway, here he is shooting you in the head.
That's amazing. Am I up?
What are we at?
Yep.
Is it Paul? Or is it you? Or maybe it's me. Paul Hine. I'll do it. Whatever. No, it is you.
It is you.
Go.
All right.
Go, Scott, go!
Paul Hine says Mass Effect.
We're off the rails.
Mass Effect, Star Wars, Ratchet and Clank, The Witcher, and World of Warcraft.
Get tired of all these Star Wars.
Yeah.
I mean, at least World of Warcraft is going to give you plenty of content.
Well, we'll get to our list in a minute.
I think quality is more important than quantity.
Hey, there's some quality World of Warcraft that will suck your soul.
And in defense, I guess, of all of our beautiful listeners writing in with Star Wars, you know, the question sure didn't negate it. So,
yeah.
Yep.
Just playing the rules.
All right. Kevin Honigford. Anything but Sonic.
That's what he said. Yeah. Number one, he said he hates Sonic the Hedgehog.
Yeah. Yep. Who knew all this time he hates Sonic?
Yep. Even
he
though
he says Shadow for life, he my boyfriend. That's weird. It's kind of a weird thing to write.
You know, I didn't even think about it because Sonic, you don't have quite the depth that you do with how many Mario games there are, but you still get.
There's like 20 plus games easy.
I know, but there's a lot.
Probably 100 games.
This isn't a flex. This isn't me talking about. There's like so many Mario games.
I know.
But like Sonic still has other stuff besides just the normal Sonic games. You've got, the 3D ones, right. You've got the adventure ones, you've got
Spinball,
you've got puzzle games. There's a lot to go there, and somehow that doesn't feel like a cheat.
And they all get worse after 2.
See, it still categorizes cheat to me in my brain. Yeah. But I get it. He's not as big as Mario in that regard.
All right. Even though I've only beaten one of them, The Legend of Zelda.
For the record, Kevin's number one answer was Sonic.
No, it's not Sonic. It's not Sonic.
Just to clarify.
Number 3, Final Fantasy. Number 4, Super Mario. See, I could accept Super Mario because you are limiting the games. And number 5, Warcraft. No, Warcraft is not a cheat answer. Some of the best stories ever told.
I don't consider Warcraft a cheat.
See, I would see Warcraft. Does he mean like Warcraft 1, 2, and 3?
I would say it counts both.
Yeah. Warcraft and World of Warcraft.
See, if you say World of Warcraft, that does include Warcraft 1, 2, and 3.
I agree.
But it is the World of Warcraft.
It is,
right.
but
I'm just saying,
they're different.
When Paul Hine wrote in and said World of Warcraft, he could have just said Warcraft and got himself a couple extra games. But I would also argue that most people that play World of Warcraft probably don't care about or enjoy Warcraft anyway.
Yeah.
Ferris here?
Yep.
Writes in with Puzzle Quest, Ghost Recon. Okay, interesting. Fallout, Assassin's Creed, Forza, and also says, you suck. This is tough.
It is tough.
Puzzle Quest is an interesting one, but I understand it. But Ghost Recon, quite surprising.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
No, the early games were great. Back before Tom Clancy died. R.I.P.
All right, GamerDad03, Rocket League, no surprise. Apex Legends, no surprise. Lost Ark. Wow, didn't that just come out?
That's very new. Yeah, you must really like it.
Diablo.
Good choice.
I didn't think about that one because that one's got new games coming out as well. And Rainbow Six Extraction.
Get out.
It's weird. I feel like it's a troll because why wouldn't you just say Rainbow Six?
Yes, that's why I said get out.
This jokester.
I don't know. I feel like nobody's going to be playing Apex in 10 years.
I don't think anybody's going to be playing Rainbow Six Extraction in 6 months. All right. Silly Willy, Hollow Knight.
Wow, is that even a brand? Oh, I guess the second one is coming.
Yeah.
Was a Silk Song,
yeah,
right?
I forgot about that.
Yeah. 2, Pokemon.
Mm-hmm.
All because it's one game doesn't mean it's not a franchise. 3, Souls.
That's not a franchise.
That's a cheat.
That's a genre.
Wait, what is Souls?
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
Dark Souls, Demon Souls. So it's not including Bloodborne.
So it's not including Souls like.
It's not Souls like.
So they're all in the same universe.
Just right from software.
I don't want Armored Core. But or Tenchu. No, I would. Yeah, the Souls. They are interconnected, just not in obvious ways. So I wouldn't even say they're the same universe, but the Miyazaki games are all about different universes getting pulled together anyway, and timelines and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, all of the Miyazaki era games are connected in some way, tangentially.
Okay. But we're not going to include things like
Bloodborne.
Elden Ring.
No, you would count Bloodborne. We don't know if you count Elden Ring.
But it doesn't say Souls.
Well, neither does Bloodborne.
No, I know, but it is part of the same fabric.
Kind of like how Star Wars games are in the same fabric.
I feel like we're verging on a cheat.
Anyway.
All right. Number 4, Apex, Need a Shooter. And number 5, Mass Effect.
Lots of Mass Effects. All right.
Yeah.
That was our listeners' thoughts. I feel like I've changed my answers about 4 times after going through and
yeah, I know, right?
Talking about those. So, Zack, I'm really intrigued to hear this because this isn't necessarily like your favorite franchises of all time. These are the ones that you want to be stuck playing with forever. So,
past, present, and future.
Let's see.
Are we going to do this round robin?
Ooh, actually, I want to take a shot at Zach's list.
All 5?
Clearly the Arkham games, probably Souls games, Mass Effect.
I'm not going to comment.
Well, I'm willing to bet those 3 are going to be on.
I can't imagine that Nier isn't in there.
Yeah, Nier. So there's 4.
I don't know why Mass Effect would be out there, to be honest. Anyway, are we going to do this round robin? Or are we doing one list at a time? How are we doing this?
I'd say do one list at a time.
Okay. No, well, so my number 1 obviously is Nier.
Nier.
That is one franchise. Okay. That is one creator, one publisher, several developers, but it is one storyline.
Okay.
See, I'll allow it because if you say Warcraft versus World of Warcraft, Nier, I'm like, okay, it's a franchise.
Well, I mean, Nier is a spin-off of Drakengard. That's just how that goes. Number 2, I'm going to go with Final Fantasy.
Okay.
Yeah. That covers a lot too, because not only there's more than just the 15
main games,
soon to be 16 games.
Right, and even if you do just have the main line, I think I could live with that. You know, and then so number 3, I am going to go with it. Soulsborne. That's what the fans call the franchise. That's what the fans call the franchise, my man.
You know what they also call another genre Metroidvanias, but I'm not allowed to call it that.
It's all those are good games, obviously. Don't be a fool. Even if you do want to restrict me, I would just take Bloodborne probably, even on its own.
Oh wow! We're gonna get a Bloodborne 2?
Yeah, Meridian from Blue.
Oh man,
remember my wild prediction?
What a terrible time to say you'll just take Bloodborne with Elden Ring literally knocking on your door.
I'm saying, I said Soulsborne. You guys are the ones. You guys just don't know enough about the franchise.
Yeah, but then you're like, connected. I just take Bloodborne.
I said if I have to. I'm not going to. It's on my list. I'm part of this show. Sorry, you guys are just, you guys aren't good enough to realize that the Soulsborne games are connected.
Wow.
That's on me. Anyway, number 4, I'm actually going with The Legend of Zelda. Because when I was looking at this franchise list, I was like, I don't know if I could actually go, like, not even having the option to replay a Zelda game.
Yeah.
They made too much of me. Can't happen. And then I really took advantage of this category with number 5. I'm just going to say Shin Megami Tensei.
Yep. I know exactly why you said that, too.
I'm going to need some fresh stuff to play, man. Yeah.
Well, that also includes all the Persona games.
It sure does include all the Persona games, absolutely.
I was like, I know exactly why.
It was because of Paul writing in about World of Warcraft. I was like, wait a minute, I can adjust this. I don't have to say Persona. I can get a whole bunch of JRPGs.
Yeah, the Devil Summoner
that and
ones
Final Fantasy. You're not going to need any.
I'm set.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's my list. Arkham, you're right, was in the running, but I have played enough of that game where if I don't have to play it again, I would probably be okay.
I'm just so surprised.
It's also a matter of, like, it was one game. Like, City is where my focus is when it comes to Arkham. So, like, if I have to sacrifice City to get an unlimited plethora of these weird esoteric Shin Megami Tensei games, that's fine. I want something new in this list, you know what I mean?
Right.
Okay.
All right, that's your list.
CB?
Man, I almost feel dirty for saying this, but Shin Megami Tensei.
You're welcome.
No. I had that on my list as well because I was like, well, that includes the Devil Summoner saga.
Yeah, Soul Hackers just announced a sequel. Yeah, no, that's smart. That's a smart choice.
Yeah, Persona. Like you're talking hundreds of thousands, thousands of hours of games.
Yeah, that's a great smart choice. I gotta say.
Yeah, because I had originally said Star Wars. So I'm like, it feels a little too broad. Because if I was going to say Star Wars, I would have just said Star Wars Galaxies.
Yeah, there you go. Oh man, bring that back.
Yeah,
that game's great.
Assassin's Creed, no surprise. Fallout.
Yeah, well, I was waiting for that one.
Harvest Moon.
Okay, a little relaxation in there.
There's also a wide gamut of those.
I didn't really think about the fact that at some point I probably want to play something just to chill out.
Yeah. Whoops. And then this is where I kind of cheated. The Namco Classic series.
That's not a franchise.
Actually, it is.
Oh, man.
They have multiples.
He's just trying to get his gal again.
They have Namco Classics 1 through 5.
That is a collection of games. That's not a.
It's a franchise. I will fight you.
Oh man!
Because
you will lose. That is not a franchise.
Yes, it is. All made by Namco.
It's all made by the same company. Does not make it a franchise.
There's only 5 of them.
Doesn't matter. If that's the case, then I can just put Elder Scrolls and Fallout and Wolfenstein and everything because they're all made by Bethesda.
Fine. I will go with Forza.
Forza or Forza Horizon?
Forza counts, man.
Forza counts both.
All right.
Give the man some slack.
Forza counts both.
Sean can have Mario.
I really wanted to do Mario because Mario just covers so many bases.
It covers like 600.
I know.
It covers like every franchise.
All right. Is it my turn? Am I up?
Yeah.
All right. It should come no surprise that Zelda.
Shin Megami Tensei?
Zelda's going to be on my list too. I wasn't going to put it because it was just such an on the nose answer because, it's my favorite series. But some of those games I haven't played in so long and it would be somewhat relaxing to go back and go play some of those. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's kind of like with Zelda, like, it would almost be nice to not have the option of other franchises because then we're like, oh, maybe I will replay
exactly. Minish Cap is
Faces
so
of Evil.
good.
Minish Cap's great.
Such a great game. That one needs to come to Switch.
Zelda's Adventure.
No. Well, I mean, that would count. I would get that, but I will never play that again. Ever. I don't know how to do this one because I don't want it to come across as a cheat because I want to play some pinball. Do I say Pinball FX?
If I can't say Namco Collection, no.
It's funny because I would have totally said Pinball FX works.
Yeah.
But
no, because I was just going to say pinball in general. Like pinball.
Just pinball?
Yeah.
the concept.
When I figured that was not gonna work, but if I said Pinball FX, that is a franchise. That is.
I would give you Pinball FX because they make tables that are just for it.
But they also make recreations of actual tables.
Yeah, I would think
if I can't include the Namco collection, no.
That's insane, dude. Namco's a bunch of different franchises. The collections are a bunch of different franchises smashed together.
It's 12 games on each one.
That is 60 games.
How many tables are in Pinball FX?
Right, but 99. It's still just pinball. It's one game.
That's one type of game.
I would have less than you.
Okay, dear listeners listening to this conversation, does Pinball FX count? Does Pinball FX count, and does Namco Collections 1 through 5 count as a franchise?
You should put up a poll after the episode comes out, like which one counts more?
Which one counts more, yeah. My other ones are going to surprise you. I changed this one. I went ahead and put Warcraft. Because I'm not a PC gamer, but I did play Warcraft 3 back in the day. And I've been scared to death of MMOs because of the time sink. But if I could only play 5 franchises ever again, World of Warcraft seems like the perfect one because I've got nothing else to worry about keeping up with old games, and I can actually sit back and enjoy that and get sucked into that world that freaks me out. So that would be on there. Shockingly, CB, I did not put Fallout on here, but I did put Elder Scrolls because I have yet to finish an Elder Scrolls game. Including Skyrim, but I would love to play Skyrim. I'd love to go back and play Morrowind, which I've never touched. I'd love to give Oblivion a shot because I only got to the intro area in that, and I'd love to see what the franchise is about. And those games are massive, so it'll take me forever.
To be fair, I like the Elder Scrolls. I think is overall the better choice because you also have Elder Scrolls Online.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas Fallout doesn't have that.
Right.
It's just, I love the aesthetic and the stories in Fallout more.
So do I, but I've also beaten Fallout 3 and 4, and as much fun as those are to go back and revisit, I still want a little bit more fresh content, and I haven't seen everything that there is to offer in Skyrim alone, much less the rest of the series. Which brings me to my last one, and this was kind of my theme going into this, is I wanted it not necessarily to be things that I already know and love, because I got that with Zelda and Pinball, right? Pinball FX, because it counts. But I needed something that was very, very fresh to me, and I went with the Witcher series. Because I've never played Witcher 1 or 2.
Very, very fresh.
And I got to Skellige on Witcher 3 and gave up because it was just too big and massive for me. And we all know that there's got to be another Witcher game coming. There's no way that... especially after the success of the Netflix series, that there's not going to be more Witcher content coming.
Question is CD Projekt Red doing it?
I think they will.
Well, I know they were like Witcher 3 is done, but it doesn't get rid of the Witcher 4. It just wouldn't necessarily be with Geralt,
right? Which it would count. It's in the same franchise.
Yeah,
of course. Yeah.
So that's why I chose those, and that's my list, and I'm sticking to it. So. Thank you to everybody who wrote in with comments. We really had a good time going through that. I literally changed my list, I think, 3 times going through there. So it was fun reading their comments first before giving our answers. So next week's topic is still to be determined, so stay tuned to the social media outlets for what the question is. We'd love to hear from you guys. And if you'd like to hear your comment read on the air, be sure to post it on Facebook, Discord, or on Twitter. But that's going to do it for this episode of The Gaming Outsider. Zack, do you have any parting words or recommendations for the listeners before we get out of here finally?
Whoa, Elden Ring. That's it. That's all I got on my mind.
That's it. All right, CB.
I'm not doing much else. I'm trying to get through Voice of Cards as fast as humanly possible, so I haven't watched anything else because I gotta get a fish where Elden Ring comes out, or else it'll just never happen.
Now you know how I felt trying to get through Nobody Saves the World before Horizon came out, and that did not happen.
Yeah, man. Life gets in the way.
Yeah. Life finds a way. CB, how about you?
2 quick things. I know I talked about this. I haven't got a chance to say this on the show yet, but I started watching Shameless.
Oh, yes. How far are you now?
Season 6.
Okay, so you're right in the heart of the raunchiness.
I'm deep. Wow. That's all I got. Ouch. Wow.
Literally the smuttiest show I think I've ever watched.
Yeah. And I've been talking about it with my partner at work almost every single day I work. Just because she absolutely adores that show. And she's like, all right, so catch me up. Where are you at?
Yeah. Well, plus
so
he's an EMT, the one character's an EMT, so that you got a double bonus. Oh, am I spoiling?
And one character is a Jedi.
I was about to say, nobody's an EMT yet.
I thought that happened way earlier, so I apologize, but...
Okay, well, we'll get there.
All right.
But for those of you who are horror fans out there, the Netflix Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yeah?
Wow.
Is it good?
It's solid.
Really?
For being a sequel. It's solid.
All right.
I give them props. So it's everything I wanted in a Texas Chainsaw movie that actually meets the requirement of the word massacre.
Oh, so lots of deaths is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pretty gruesome ones, I assume.
I was actually surprised. Like, it is amazingly violent.
Taking advantage of that lack of rating?
Yeah. They go places.
I'm intrigued.
So
I'd like to see how much they push the envelope.
They do a good job. I'll just say that.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for being here, and thank you to everybody listening. Would like to remind you once again that The Gaming Outsider is produced by Nate Lucas, and all the music you hear is written and performed by Grant Henry of Stemage and Metroid Metal. His website is stemagemusic.com. Please be sure to email us if you have any questions or concerns. Our address is feedback@thegamingoutsider.com. Until next week, I'm Scott Clark with Zack Parkerson and Chris Behrensmeyer, and we are The Gaming Outsider. And remember, there's no such thing as a bad game, just games that aren't for you.